Ready?
Okay, let's get this done.
Hello?
All right.
All right, sorry. I want to say I was ready too. Sorry.
Okay, well, we're live now, gang. Welcome, everyone, to yet another episode of WIC TV, a cross-ideological space where we come together to talk about issues both political and cultural, from the silly to the serious. Gang, we've got a show for you tonight. We have one more guest coming. He's on his way, trying to get his camera to work. When he gets here, I'll pull him in, and we'll hopefully it'll be smooth sailing tech issue wise, but I want to get started because I know that you guys are here for content. Speak of the devil. Okay, gang, today we are going to be talking about Gamergate 2. There are a lot of moving parts to this. It has reopened the discussions that have been going on for a while. Are games woke? Is Kotaku fallen? Right? What exactly is going on here? And is it something that we should be concerned about, or is this just more culture war bullshit? We've gathered a team to talk about it. So I'm going to give everyone here a brief, and I stress this, concise introduction, tell people who you are, what you do, and then we'll just get into it. Sound good, gang? Great. And we're going to start with my friend, Counterpoints. Go ahead. Open us up.
Are we doing intros on the topic or just intros?
Yes, on the topic as well. Tell your opening thoughts on the whole topic.
Yep.
Go ahead.
My name's Connor. I run a YouTube channel named Counterpoints 40K. I think that if you deny that progressive politics is injected at every level of media, I think you're asleep at the wheel. I'm interested in order to talk about how, one, we start with this isn't happening, and then two, we end up where it's good it's happening. I think that we can call out the more ridiculous, poorly written dog shit examples of progressive media being forced into storylines that actually end up making the stories suck. And I think that we can agree that there might be a little bit more focus on quality media that would improve these stories more from a centrist and right-wing perspective, but also even from a progressive perspective, we can make better stories with more diverse characters. So I'm excited to get into it. I'll leave it there.
Awesome. Thanks for being here. We're going to see how it goes. Next up, someone who's spouted off on this topic already on Twitter. I think your last tweet on it got, what, like 50K likes or some shit? Rico, go ahead. Tell us who you are and what you do and what your thoughts are. Go ahead.
Hello. My name is Dorico Baker. I just stream myself playing video games and occasionally talk politics if I feel like it. I am not, thank you, not particularly feel strongly either which way. It's just seeing the more extreme takes like, hey, it's wrong. Games shouldn't be about telling people that being a straight white man is bad. Takes like that. I'm just like, okay, look, there is some genuine criticism to be had in game development with what's been coming out in games journalism and all that, but I'm just not entertaining absurd bullshit, and that's kind of why I just said what I said and why I will continue to say what I say. But either way, I want to be clear. I don't pretend to be an expert on all this. I just know I've been playing video games and following the gaming community my whole fucking life. So that's all I got going for me. So
All good. Now, we are here for your opinion. I like your opinion, and we'll see where it goes. Thanks for being here. Next up, the OG COD YouTuber himself, Hutch. Go ahead.
What's up, guys? Yeah, lifelong gamer. I was very kind of fascinated with the first Gamergate. This one seems to have already petered out, unless you guys know something that I don't. But I'm looking for the people across the aisle to convince me why this is like something that I should pay attention to and not just dismiss. So that's what I'm looking for with my panelists, my co-panelists here. Okay.
Speaking of co-panelists, first-time guests on my stream, Wheezy, what are your thoughts?
Hi, everybody. I go by Wheezy Pillar on YouTube. I'm a relatively small channel. I only started taking this seriously in the last 6 months or so, and that seems to be working for me. But yeah, just like the other guys, I've been playing games almost my entire life. I'm pushing 40 at this point, and I think, as Counterpoint said, there is something to be said about the direction that the games industry is heading in versus how it used to be when I started picking up a Super Nintendo and a PlayStation. So,
Okay. Well, we'll get into it as we go. And last but certainly not least, I'm glad he's here. Peter, is that how you like to be referred to?
Sure, that works for me.
Okay. Peter, tell people who you are, what you do, what your thoughts are. Go ahead.
Hello there. Happy to be here with all of you today. My name is Peter Pischke. I'm a sometimes reporter journalist. I also host the show Culturescape on YouTube and podcast. I've written on and off over the years about Gamergate and things attached to it, and interviewed some people that were affected by it, both on the left and the right, like Brianna Wu on the left, and then some on the right, like Alex McCree, who was the founder of The Escapist and then got pushed out. So I lean more towards the whatever we want to call the people this time, the GG 2.0ers, but I have criticisms for both sides, and I think the energy there is interesting. Happy to talk about it today.
And we will get into it. I guess we'll start off. Well, first of all, just so everyone knows, not that it relates to today's topic, but I have to disclose this. I am paid by Progressive Victory. Counterpoints is paid by Progressive Victory, and Hutch is affiliated. I don't know if he gets paid or not. But anyway, just so everyone knows, that's out of the way. That said, okay. Hutch brought up a very, very good point. Why should anyone care? Why should we care, right?
Well,
why should anyone care about what's happening right now with games? And
yeah,
games?
so I'll articulate that. So the reason why other people care, you might not care if you're a progressive or a liberal or whatever, you might not care, is because centrist, right-wingers, conservatives, whatever, we want these things to be organic. We want them to have meaningful stories. We want them to be interesting. And we want that to take priority over diversity, equity, and inclusion. And I'm not talking about like specifically the HR departments. I'm just talking about those concepts in general. And what's going on right now is we see that the quality of the products actually sucks in a lot of regards. We seem to be selling out for these concepts and then making dog shit products as a result. So it's clear that we have our priorities mixed up. If you want like specific examples as far as what I think has qualitatively been ruined in the past half decade, I would say the Marvel series pretty much since the Infinity War saga has been very meh. I would say that the Star Wars series is a blatant example of people trying to subvert expectations and traditional storytelling methods and character development in order to create a dog shit story that is basically, I don't want to say ruined, but significantly damaged a $1 billion enterprise. And then I would also say that even in Warhammer and other popular media properties, you can tell when there's forced representation that doesn't feel organic to the story, and it's off-putting and interrupts the flow of the world. So I could rant for another 2 minutes, but I'll leave it there as a start.
Do you have any examples for games?
I had a question on that
Sure.
actually, but because we already gave two examples, I hope you don't mind me asking, is the difference between natural diversity and forced diversity in your words?
Sure. So I would say that Blade, like the 1999 2000 Blade with Wesley Snipes, nobody gave a fuck that Blade was black because he was fucking awesome. He was hardcore. He had badass weapons, badass armor, badass backstory. He had an arc. He had friends. He had gadgets. It was basically like watching a vampire Batman superhero movie, and it was well done from start to finish. Nobody gave a fuck that he was black. Whereas what I would say is like an insert, I'll try to think of some more video games references, but just as an example off the top of my head, I just broke down a Warhammer IP piece that was about like mechanical walking soldiers, and for no fucking reason, the two protagonists are like, it's a female queen. Okay, she's powerful, she's interesting, she has interesting character development. It's also a female protagonist, and both of them survive the beats of the story, whereas every other male on the screen, you could have counted on them being disposable because they all got killed almost instantaneously. So, or they were evil. So yeah, that's the kind of shit that like you see it, and if the story's good, it can make up for it, but it also kind of makes you fucking groan as soon as you see it, because you're like, oh fuck, here we go.
I do want more video game examples, to be clear, right? That is
Sure.
kind of I
would do
narrow it
Lara
down.
Croft's tits as an example off the top of my head. In the 1990s, her tits were huge. They were like quadruple Ds, and now they're like deflated pancakes. So that would be my first example.
So
I mean,
it's woke. Sorry. So it's woke that her breasts maybe look more.
We've all learned from Twitter that conservatism equals large honkers. So yeah.
Oh, you
Well,
mean
to
that?
me,
You
when
mean
I-
that sincerely?
No, but at the same time, like I would say that changing female characters to be less attractive is something that is pushed by the concepts of DEI. We'll see those like tweets where it's like, thanks for making the muscle characters, you know, this made me cry because, you know, now I feel like I have female representation that represents me, and that'll go viral. Or what is it, the Horizon New Dawn character, or the Mary Jane character, or Lara Croft as an example, where they obviously, they de-sexified her.
And I guess my question is, why is that? Why do you care why her tits are smaller?
Well,
What-
I mean, I personally
what-
don't because I'm 35 and married, but I could see how from like a teenage boy perspective, which let's face it, that's like 95% of the market, how that would be annoying.
No, that's not true.
How does that harm how does that harm a teenage boy? Is what I'm asking.
It doesn't harm them. It just makes them annoyed.
Does it?
If Laura, I mean, like you don't have to use Laura Croft, but yeah, if you're using less attractive character models, yeah, intentionally, yeah, I would assume that that's annoying.
Does the teenage boy have reference to the 90s version versus the current one? The teenage boy now even know about the 90s version?
They probably have Google. Also, I mean, I would point to this in like Soul Calibur as well. There's like in the fighting games and Mortal Kombat as well. They've desexified plenty of these characters. It's not just one character. Like, are we in contention that they have desexified female characters over the past half decade?
No, what I'm saying is that teenage boys are the ones being annoyed. It's 30-plus-year-old men like us who seem to be annoyed.
Well,
teenage
I
boys don't.
think
they don't have
30-plus-year-old men should focus on getting married. So that would be my perspective.
But then that's the question: is why would you bring this up as an issue when teenage boys don't even have a point of reference like we do? The whole argument, the whole problem is that we do have that point of reference. We see that things have changed, arguably for the worse. But the argument is that it annoys teenage boys.
I hate to interject.
I'm annoyed on their behalf.
I hate to interject, but I want to maybe go on a different tack, at least at first. We can get back to the boobs later, gang. I promise. Okay, I promise. But I want to talk a little bit about what sparked the current round of discussion that we're having. I want to talk about Sweet Baby Inc., right? I want to talk about the response to that from gamers. I want to talk about the response from that from the game journalist perspective. And also, I don't know if you all are aware, but recently Kotaku, the one who made the initial little article about Gamergate 2.0, and also I believe Gamergate 1.0, right? They have gone through a recent, or there are reports at least of them going through a recent change to get away from reporting like that, right? So I want to kind of bring it to the subject at hand, and then we can expand out into the boobs. I promise we'll get there. But I want to talk to I want to get the new people in here a little bit. Peter, you've worked with the industry for a while, right?
Yes.
The accusation that games journalists do not care and are actively hostile towards gamers, and that game journalists and game devs are in cahoots to make games worse or wokeified or DEI-ified, whatever you want to say. Do you give that any credence? Why or why not?
Unfortunately, I do. I would say the average game journalist does not. In fact, I would say most people that work in journalism are not the caricatures. Most people just want to live, do their jobs, live their lives, go home, spend time with wife and kids just like anyone else. The problem is games journalism decided in the 2010s that part of their model was that they would bring a lot of people in on for very cheap. And part of the deal that sites like Kotaku made, Gizmodo Network, even just sites like Gawker, we're going to bring in these very political young people, and we're not going to pay them anything, and then they're going to churn out 48 articles a day, and we'll keep them happy by playing nice with all the gatekeeping and the silly stuff they want to do. Unfortunately, this had a knock-on effect to the relationship between people who were gamers and people who are journalists. This is kind of, I'm not a Gamergate, but I remember, and I still am a frequent reader of Kotaku. IGN, all these sites. And I'm at work one day. I'm an intern at a TV news station, and I read this article, and Kotaku's making this argument how gamers are so terrible, gamers are dead. You should hate to even call yourself a gamer. And for me, I'm like, what? Where is this coming from? It was so out of left field because up to that point, it was like, the people at games journalism, that's who I wanted to be. In some ways, maybe I still do. You know, they're one of us. They're our advocates, the vanguard. And now it became this thing where there was this division. And unfortunately, it's a problem. It's not most journalists. Unfortunately, many of the worst people in journalism are in the games journalist industry. Are there concerns about ethics like cahoots? Sometimes. Most of the time, no, because these sites are usually
What about
very
this
careful.
time? This time with Sweet Baby Inc. Do you think that there's any there?
There's not evidence of it. I wouldn't be surprised because a lot of the same people from when Kotaku got in trouble back in 2014 are part of Sweet Baby Games. So that's not exactly the best example, but we don't have direct evidence. It's like most of this is all suggestive. We don't actually have hard evidence that's what's happening. But it was an issue definitely in the past with the Gamergate 1.0. There was clear ethical problems. And this is more like about the game developers than it is about the games journalism.
Go ahead, Hutch.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, but Gamergate 1.0 kicked off because an aggrieved ex-boyfriend of a game developer did a blog post about how she had supposedly cheated on him 5 times, and one of the guys that he alleged was Nathan Grayson, who worked at the time for Kotaku, and the accusation at the time was that she was basically having sex with all these games journalists so that they would give her game a positive review. But that was like that was the narrative at the time. But Nathan Grayson hadn't even reviewed the game. It ended up being a completely bullshit predicate. Am I wrong about that?
I would have to go back. I would lean to saying that it was true, but I haven't looked. Like, this is 2014. I mean, I've not thought a lot about how it started because, unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on who you talk to, how it started didn't really matter because it took on its whole life of its own. Nate Grayson is a fine reporter these days, but he had in his past a problem of less than professional relationships sometimes with sources, and that kind of got in trouble later on. But I can't tell you for 100% certain it was true or not. I've even talked to Aaron Joni, and he definitely thinks it's true. I mean, at least from the boyfriend perspective, he thinks it's real. And Zoe Quinn, she did get in trouble for all kinds of unethical behavior, and it did include other people in the media. So it wasn't like this was a crazy assertion, unfortunately. You would get people at Kotaku all the time writing articles about their roommate. This was frequent enough. Now, to them, it was like, look, this is my buddy. This is just a small little puff piece. It doesn't really harm anyone. But to gamers, they were feeling like, well, if you're attacking us as being awful, then we're going to look at you differently. And hey, this is clearly a conflict of interest.
I did look into it before this panel, and what I found was that there were 2 articles that he had written about the game Depression Quest, which was the game that I think she was the sole developer of the game. It was just like a small indie game. One of the articles was written before anything was even alleged, so that that couldn't have been, like, the time didn't add up. And then the other one, again, like I said, was not a review. So in retrospect, what kicked off the first Gamergate was a bit of a false narrative. Now, you're right. It probably, I know that it tapped into a sort of like resentment, a lingering latent resentment that was going on in the gaming space. But what kicked off the initial Gamergate ended up being more or less bullshit. This idea that she was sleeping with games journalists so that they would give her game positive coverage, that seems wild to me, because the games industry is like many other industries in that it's super incestuous, and people will end up sleeping together because they're in proximity to each other at conventions, or they, blah, 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 blah. I never saw a smidge of compelling evidence that she was out there having sex with people to get positive coverage. I mean, I don't know how much you want to focus on the first Gamergate, Wick, but
I don't really. Yeah. I want to focus on the new one, right?
Okay, so
but they are connected. But they are connected. So yeah.
Well, I mean, they're connected in name. Like the I don't know how much of a connection this has with the first one. Maybe just kind of broadly in terms of like the resentment that some people feel about the way that games are being made these days. The thing that I find interesting is like we're told all the time, like, okay, don't do forced inclusion, don't tokenize queer people or black people or trans people or whatever. But then this company, I mean, more or less exists so that if they're going to do inclusive characters, if they're going to make the conscious decision to be inclusive about what sort of characters
This
are in
company
their
being
game.
Sweet Baby.
Sweet Baby, yeah.
Okay, yeah. Okay.
They're this consulting firm that basically markets themselves as helping developers tackle these characters in a way that is not like culturally insensitive. So isn't that the whole point, like, of this company existing, is to not do it in a way that's tokenizing and to do it in a way that's more authentic?
I think we would let their work kind of speak for them, which allegedly they worked on Spider-Man 2, and like the example that everybody brings up is that you play like a deaf black girl like spray painting the side of buildings as like a side quest. So like, are we boiling down like black identity to spray paint and graffiti and all that bullshit?
What's wrong? What's wrong with that?
What's wrong with graffiti and the black identity being boiled down to vandalism?
Well, that's one take for like artistic graffiti. Certainly, a lot of people don't have that take when it comes to that kind of a thing. But you're saying that the reason that it's bad is because it makes them look like what? Miles Morales is a graffiti artist. He's a graffiti artist in the game and in the movie and everything. Like, this is like a. I mean, I don't look at.
I think the take was that it was like a very shallow side quest in which like you play deaf temporarily.
Hello?
And then you do graffiti.
Rico?
So if you wanted like an enriched black perspective,
yes,
shouldn't it be deeper than that? If this is the consultation work that they're doing?
I'm not familiar with the game, didn't play it, but if this is a side character, if this is just a side quest, I'm not sure what you seem to have an issue with the fact that she was black and deaf and a graffiti artist. I'm not connecting those dots. I don't understand what the problem is.
I think the problem is that it was shoehorned in, and it.
What do you mean shoehorned? What does that mean?
Meaning, although it's a side quest, you don't have to do it. The fact that it's there, I think people took umbrage with that. Why? And I think that's a bad example, honestly.
Okay.
Because it is a side quest. You don't have to do it. If you want to completely ignore it and go on about the rest of the game, you can.
I got a question I wanted to ask. I couldn't. My mic wasn't working. What is
it's
deeper,
fine.
What is deeper black representation? I really want to know what that is.
Well, I'm not black. I couldn't tell you. So I would trust an actual black person to do that, especially somebody who's like Hispanic and black. Like, isn't that the entire point of Miles Morales, is that he's like a biracial character from Brooklyn, and like he has like a fairly unique American experience?
Well, as the only black guy here, I want to tell you that I wasn't the least bit bothered because we're not all fucking deep characters with enriching backstories. Many of us are just regular ass people who do some stupid shit like vandalism, like graffiti. How is that insulting to me?
Listen, I'm not going to pretend to feign ignorance on your behalf. I really I think that 36-year-old men should be focused more on family and life and all that kind of bullshit. I'm here to argue for the young men who want to see boobies and violence in their video games, because it's an experience that I had I cherish.
If I may.
Just one point. Do you
just
know
one
what
more point.
I'm listening.
Do you want to know what I wanted to see growing up? More black people in video games. I didn't get to see that at all growing up. All the games I played, I seldom saw many at all, especially in the RPGs I played and whatnot. So now here I am playing Dragon's Dogma 2, and I get to design a character that looks like me. So I see more. I'm getting what I wanted, but y'all seem to be bothered by that, and I'm very confused as to why.
Well, I was interested. You said that the example was a bad example. I'm sorry. Forgive me.
That's what I was going to ask. I was going to toss it to Weezy and ask him the question. Yeah.
I don't think that is a good example, especially when people bring up forced diversity or forced inclusion or forced anything. And I don't think anybody here would say that diversity is a bad thing. I wouldn't. In fact, diversity is what keeps the industry going. You got to have some new ideas. You got to have new characters. You got to have new stories. But I think they kind of fall flat when they try to do this, because they don't put enough effort into those characters that they are trying to include.
Do you have specific examples?
Okay. Far Cry 6 is the most recent one I can think of. Uh-huh. So you're going through Far Cry 6, and then you reach one of the main areas, one of the main story beats, which is about a couple that
Brother
are
and sis?
yeah.
Is it brother?
No,
brother and sister?
They're boyfriend and girlfriend.
Uh-huh.
Well, the boyfriend is a trans man. And you would completely miss it. They say it at the beginning of the mission. Oh, this person is trans. They kind of they include that in there so okay, this character is trans. And you go, all right, and you keep playing the game. But every mission after that, they have to again reiterate, hey, this person is trans. The next mission, oh, this person had top surgery. Oh, the next mission, okay, well now they can finally be free and do this, that, and the other. You can tell a story, but they hit you over the head with it, just in the story and the dialogue. They put it that way.
Would there be a way to include a character arc for a trans character that included things like top surgery? Is there a way that you could do it in a way that you would call quote unquote organic?
Well, yeah, even through the whole game, you find little tidbits of information that tell stories and backstories about characters and the location and what's been happening.
Mm-hmm.
I know a lot of people had an issue with Hogwarts Legacy, but again, another trans character in Hogwarts Legacy where it's like, okay, this person is trans. Okay. Nobody has a problem with that. Just like I don't think anybody has a problem with black main characters in games or any other color main character in a game. Hell, I mean, half of the ones are create your own character anyway. So
I feel like you're kind of, you want it both. You want it on both ends here. So like, it's okay to include the characters, but then like, to me, the question is like, for the people that get upset, like, let's say you have a video game company and they make a conscious decision, you may call it like forced or shoehorned, but another way you could just put that is just to say like, well, we want to make a conscious decision to have our game be inclusive, to be representative of a very diverse pool of people. Like I struggle to put myself in their heads, like what would make them happy in terms of how to do it in a way that you would say that it wasn't shoehorned. Like a lot of the times for me, and this is just my anecdotal experience, when I look at like various Twitter threads, especially like IGN Twitter threads, which are just a fucking cesspool, anytime there's like a black character or a trans character that's like front and center, if there's like an image of that character or whatever, you always see the same things like DEI, woke garbage, blah, blah, blah. And it's literally just, my brain interprets that as like woke equals black, woke equals trans. Really woke is black and trans. That's like the pinnacle. So how do you get around that? So you're saying that representation is fine, but right. Okay. So what characters do you think are bad, Connor?
Well, I have more movie examples than I do video game examples. I'm not going to lie. So am I allowed to give movie examples, or do you just want to limit the conversation exclusively to video games?
I want to focus on video games, but you can give other media examples because this is that's fine.
Sure.
But
okay, so
you can do that, but then I have a question for everyone. So go ahead.
Yeah, sure. So just thinking, if you will humor me by expanding the conversation to progressive inclusivity at the sacrifice of story, I would say that Captain Marvel actually is a good example of this. When we talk about like all the previous Marvel introductions characters, we're talking about Captain America, Iron Man, Thor, all that kind of stuff. All these characters have like a principle or a virtue that they have. And that virtue is challenged throughout the narrative. And then it's actually interestingly done where they're brought down to a low point. They're brought back up. They learn something valuable about friendships or relationships or how to conduct yourself or anything like that. And literally like, thinking back on the introduction to Captain Marvel, it's she touched a fucking jet engine and that exploded on her randomly and she forgot who she was. Now she remembers who she was. Girl power. There's no narrative fucking depth whatsoever to that character. I could also
is that because of wokeness or bad writing?
Oh, it's because of bad writing, but I see that as like simultaneous. If you do bad writing, if you're doing inclusivity for the sake of inclusivity, then you're not going to focus on narrative. You should be focusing on narrative.
The character was already a woman, though. They're just adapting a character.
If I may.
Oh, sorry.
Sure, and they adapted it shittily because there was no narrative.
If I may, I think this kind of touches on what I wanted to get at. From my perspective, as someone else who is 40 years old, played video games all my life, there is this idea that wokeness is bad because woke, like diversity is bad because diversity. And I don't think that's true. I think that the complaint that many people on the Gamergate side would have isn't the diversity part. It's that you are doing it at the sacrifice of story. I'll give you an example. Baldur's Gate 3, no one complains about the diversity in that. No one complains about it because it's a great fucking game. Everyone loves the game. Everyone enjoys it. The complaints are so minimal, so minimal.
Tim Pool complained about it. Tim Pool complained about the woke stuff.
We're not gonna. Yeah, we're not gonna use.
I'm just saying there were complaints.
Okay, we're not gonna.
Tim Pool does not represent white people.
No.
Sure. But my point here is what gets people angry. What started this new round of conversation isn't that there are diversity in games or anything. What it is when you complain about a game being bad, right? Well, a lot of people did. They made the Sweet Baby Inc. list and said Suicide Squad's a bad game. They went through, these are all bad games. And then the game journalists and then the game devs turned around and said, oh, that's just because you're a bigot. You just don't like black people. You just don't like gay people. You just don't like this in your games. And the gamers are looking at them and being like, no, this game is just shit. So I want to kind of tackle or kind of like, can we acknowledge that a lot of the people who are complaining about gamers being bigots are simply trying to run cover for honest criticisms of their games? Can we just acknowledge that?
What are the
or
honest
do you not agree?
What are the honest criticisms? I would very much like to hear one that doesn't just kind of some contradictory waffling shit. Like, because think back, because I know Connor, you had said you don't have any game examples and whatnot. It's mostly media, movies and such, but it's basically the same concept. But I still am
Probably because they
failing.
play good games.
Yeah, let me ask you a question, because Wick, you just brought up Baldur's Gate 3. The character Will. I want to ask y'all. Here's a fun fact about Will's character. He is quite literally a slave in the game. He's talked to the sole black character in the main cast is literally a slave and talked to like he's a dog. I gotta ask, is that good representation of a black character or bad?
Which what game is this?
Baldur's Gate 3.
Baldur's Gate 3.
Bad.
Does he have an
talk
arc?
to like a dog? I put like 100 hours in that game. I don't recall that part.
You don't recall the parts where she said
He's not talked to like a dog.
by Mizora. You don't remember his with every conversation Mizora, every time she talks to him or about him. She's referred to him as literally her pet.
Is Mizora a bitch by nature?
Okay, so I'll answer this question. It's not because he's black that she does this. It's because he's literally sold his soul. This is the point.
No, my question is, well, what if I said I was bothered by that?
That's your
okay.
That's your right to be bothered.
But does it have like? Is this a playable character or is this an NPC?
He's one of the main characters. Yes, he's a playable character, and I have to.
He's a villain, though. Her behavior isn't something we model.
Does he
bad behavior?
Does he have an arc? Does he have an arc where he becomes more of himself, becomes redeemed, becomes more powerful, becomes more strong, becomes more central?
You get to choose whether you free him or it's based on your.
You can choose whether you can choose whether or not to free him or not later down the road.
So
my point here is this: if I wanted to say that was bad representation of a black character, and that it's really fucking weird that the only black character in the cast gets talked to and treated like that in a way no other character gets talked to. Would I treated the two things? Would I not be validated?
I want to respond to what he's asking. I want to respond to what he's asking.
I'm asking, would that not be a valid argument?
No, what I would say is if you had a sensitivity where you were like, I think that this character looks like a historical representation of black people, and it's frustrating to me that they're being denigrated through the plot. Therefore, I'm sensitive about this issue. It also bugs me that the developers made a mechanic in which this person could be denigrated further. I think that would be a valid complaint. However, what I would say is narratively, if it's potential or even probable that most people are going to work with this character, empower this character, make them a more powerful representation, a part of the crew, et cetera, you could say that that's problematic storytelling while still saying it's a good story. That's actually what's interesting about good stories is they like challenge like, you know, slavery, genocide, murder, lust, temptation, like all that kind of bullshit. And I think that's like another thing that's frustrating about modern stories is they seem to gut some of the most challenging material that's there.
If he had even once said to her, don't call me a dog. I may work for you against my will, but I'm not your fucking pet. Some type of shit. That would have been more of a character than he was the whole time, because that showed me he actually valued how he's treated and seen and how he feels about himself. But at no point does he ever tell her, don't fucking call me. He never pushes back against how she so lovingly refers to him as her pet. And that's what I'm saying here is like, would that's what I because I want to be clear about two things. One, Baldur's Gate.
I already told you that.
Yeah, Baldur's Gate.
I already told you that I wouldn't take offense if you were offended.
Well, that's what I'm saying is that all these arguments, because it's a bad argument.
Okay, I'm kind of offended.
It's a
I'm kind of offended.
Yeah, I would say it's not a great argument, but it's an argument. But at what point do we say to people?
What I'm hearing you say.
At what point do we say to people basically is this like? I understand where you're coming from, but No.
See, this is actually interesting. This is part of the reason why I didn't push back on Hutch when he was like, "Well, why do you give a fuck if a deaf black girl is graffitiing shit?" The reason why I didn't push back on that is because not everybody has to have a fucking sanitized relationship with their community and law enforcement and shit. And even if she was like a criminal or it was like a sensory deprivation thing, like I don't give a fuck about that. And then on top of that, it's like, so it's not my job to be offended on behalf of deaf black girls about them graffitiing shit. But at the same time, like if she got punished narratively, or if there were consequences to the actions, all that kind of stuff, then I would feel that would be an attempt at some depth. Right? Is if she participated in a behavior that was potentially negative and then suffered consequences as a result, and then you enrich the world in some way, I would view that as a story that at least attempted some challenging narration instead of being like, you are the representation of this character, go do a side quest for 5 minutes. Oh, wasn't it fun playing as a deaf girl for fucking 3.5 minutes? Congratulations. That's why it feels like feels like pandering. That it doesn't feel genuine.
It's a side character though, so like a lot of games, you're gonna have characters that you run into, and you really only meaningfully interact with them for 5 or 10 minutes. So you don't really get especially with like big open world games where there's tons of NPCs all around the map. So the question would be like, I mean, like, so you just don't include a character that would be like young, black, and deaf because you don't have an opportunity to like flesh the character out for 2 or 3 or 4 hours? Like, should it always be like a non-deaf person or what? Like,
I think you would do the Daredevil thing. I think that you would take a disability and then turn it into some kind of strength and then make that person narratively enriching. That's what you would do.
But Daredevil's the main character, whereas this is a side character.
Okay. I don't want to get stuck.
Okay, but my point...
Hold on. I don't want to get stuck on a single example, please.
Sure, right, but I want to make a point about representation. So when we're talking about representation, oftentimes, like I said, I am not offended by in general representation. Blade was one of my favorite characters growing up. Didn't even notice he was black until I was 13. I was told that I had to give a shit about people being black, right? So what my point is that if you want to have representation, then make it narratively interesting, make it a challenge, deal with some of the interesting like dynamics as a part of the world. Don't make it some fucking frou fucking side quest that you bump into. Now you're saying that like, okay, well, you can't fit all of these narrative qualitative issues in the diversity of media that's available. You're not going to be able to fit that in every single time. But that's what I'm saying is that's why it feels like pandering. Because it's shallow, it's not enriching, it's not challenging, it's not narratively interesting.
But if it was like a 16-year-old white kid that wasn't deaf, we wouldn't be having this conversation. So like the only reason we're having this conversation is because they made a conscious decision to make the character black and deaf, which what I get from you, like what I'm hearing from you is like I
don't know if that's necessarily true. They may still have got the backlash. It is.
No. We're not. I mean, like the only.
So even,
sorry, I mean the only reason we're having a conversation about that specific character is because of these qualities. So like whatever problems they had with the rest of the game, tackle that out separately. I'm just saying, like, the only reason we're having this conversation is because it seems like the developer made the conscious decision to be inclusive, which to some people they describe that as being forced.
I gotta ask, what's wrong with pandering?
What's wrong with pandering?
Well, hold on. I want to make sure that the other people have I know, you guys are all like old hats at this. You're veterans, right? But we gotta get the newbies in. I want to give it to Peter, then I want to toss it to Wheezy there. Go ahead, Peter. You had something to say.
I think anyone is entitled to their opinion, and if they want to interpret things into it, that's fine. The problem is, one, it's not just we're doing something positive for one. It's whenever we do something positive for one, we're pushing people down at the same time. In Spider-Man 2, Miles Morales is pushed up, and he's a major character, very positive things. That's all great. I love Miles, especially in the previous game with him. But it wasn't just that, right? It was Mary Jane has to be awesome. Peter Parker, who was previously the main protagonist and was in generally a positive light. Now he's just this kind of like wimpy guy. He can't get his life together. He's just he's just a sad sap. Meanwhile, you have Mary Jane, and she's shanking people in the neck. And it's like, look, it's fine if you want to promote Miles Morales. But when the GG people say, but why do you have to put Peter Parker down? I agree with that, because I do know it's like, it's very noticeable, and I agree. If you feel uncomfortable, if we're gonna do something and touches onto a racial lens or it's insensitive, fine. But why is their concerns not worthy? Why do we have to? Why do we want to raise someone else up? These studios, it's mostly Western AAA studios that do that. We have to push other people down. That's the concern I think many people would agree with, because it happens all the time, and I don't as a gamer understand why that's necessary, but I may be naive.
But the answer to that is that it's kind of negative development, or a character falling off from their grace is a development. It is also a development. A good example, and when I'm sure we hopefully have all seen it and loved it because it's an amazing movie, was Into the Spider-Verse. The Peter Parker has fallen down on his luck. He's a sad sack piece of shit. And he builds himself back with the help of Miles and those around him, builds himself back up, passes the torch on to Miles. It's okay for characters to fall off. It sucks to see the character you loved, who was once in their prime, now, falling off. But it's a thing that it's just a story. That is itself a story beat, or whatever you want to fucking call that. It's just a narrative change that
I strongly disagree, because it only goes in one direction, and it's almost always a white character or a white male. And I'm not saying
there was
you just see it. It's like it's just there.
Wait, can you give more examples? You're saying it's
I got two.
You're saying it's ubiquitous. So can I get some more examples? And I have issues with your Spider-Man thing.
Sure. But I'll just say there was a period of time in all media, games, literature, novels, movies, etc. There was a period of time, and it's getting a little better now, right? But there's a bit of time I could guess who the villain was from the opening scene. It was a British white guy. Every fucking time, a British white guy. There was always a bad guy. Didn't matter what the story was.
They should be demonized for the record.
I have two. Yes. Oh, shut up. See, it's not happening. It's good. It's happening. I know you're joking, but we're there. So hold on. So the two prominent examples that I can think of, I know. But obviously, Star Wars. You have Luke Skywalker, beloved hero, and he's basically like subjected to being a hermit, sucking on fucking alien tit milk on some backwards fucking forgotten fucking shit world. The way he dies is with never crossing a lightsaber with his main antagonist, and on top of that, he hands it off to fucking I forget what they call the female version that can do fucking everything, but passes it off to her. She can do fucking no wrong, right? And she barely has a fucking arc. They added a 8-minute fucking training sequence to the third movie because people complained about her not having any kind of developmental arc. Then the other example that I would bring up, which I actually think is an interesting version of both good and bad inclusivity, the new Buzz Lightyear, the movie. It was good. It was for like 70% of the fucking movie. It was solid action adventure. And on top of that, I think the people who were freaking out about like the lesbians or whatever, I think they're a bunch of pussies. It was done well. Like the Buzz's commander was presented as competent, intelligent, fearless, appear to Buzz Lightyear, a good friend, et cetera, et cetera. And the only thing that you see from like the lesbian shit or whatever is she walks in and she gives her wife a fucking kiss at like an anniversary party or something like that. That's fantastic representation. I hope my kid sees that and sees lesbians, you know, they're normal people, they have lives, they're enriching, competent, whatever people. That, to me, that's great. But you know where it fucking falls flat for me is Zurg, the alien automaton fucking monster bad guy doom guy. Do you know who that is? Spoiler alert, it's a fucking straight white man. It's Buzz Lightyear from the fucking future who became a bad guy. Like, when can we just have a bad guy be a bad guy and it's not a fucking straight white man fucking twist?
Wait,
Let me ask you.
That twists my balls off.
I got one.
Go ahead, please.
I got one
Subvert
question.
my expectations.
The expectation is this. How many can you name me off the top of your head black superheroes and villains other than Black Panther and Blade?
No,
Villains,
but you're also
superheroes and
13% of the population, so
Do you get what I'm saying? That you, of course, you're going to see more white protagonists and villains, white protagonists torn down, so to speak, or more white villains, because that's how it's always been for the longest time. So as our media continues to diversify, you will eventually see black characters. I'm sure there'll be an older Miles who's now down on his luck or some shit. Like it's going to come.
No. But the down on his luck part.
But we're not there
I
yet.
disagree. No, I disagree with the down on his luck part being bad. As a matter of fact, I think like a very, you were mentioning that it's a normal narrative beat. I think an important narrative beat is passing the torch. That's one of like the most important narrative beats is like retirement or not being able to hang up the cape and finding a new generation. Like that's one of the most important narrative beats that you can have. And as a matter of fact, I don't give a fuck if, for instance, I'm trying to think of the example, but like if you recast Terry McGinnis as like a young black man and you did Batman Beyond as a fucking young black man or whatever, nobody's going to give a fuck about that because it's set in the future. Like racism isn't a fucking problem.
They will 100% give a fuck about that. If they did that, oh my God. I'll
call them pussies.
If
$5.
If Chadwick Boseman had not, if Chadwick Boseman, the actor for Black Panther, had not died, I guarantee he
would have carried that shit.
He would have carried that shit, and then it would have been an eventual him passing on the torch to somebody else. But that is not what we got due to unfortunate circumstances.
But there's a difference between
woman.
passing.
But $5 from Fondue to say we understand that putting down a character to lift them up. The issue is if it feels insincere. People can tell that this push is malicious, and I want to tie this all back to Sweet Baby Inc., right? The claim being made, right? And we've seen those clips from the GDC, I forget the games development. Yeah, GDC, Games Development Conference. We've all seen these clips. The accusation is that they are purposefully, right, doing this. This isn't something that's just the writers are choosing, but that it is being forced upon them, that they are doing it at the expense of the story. So it's not just a natural story beat where Peter Parker is now down on his luck. It's they are injecting their politics into the game and into the narrative, and they are doing it for the purpose of pushing a political agenda onto people. What do we think of that accusation?
I just feel like you guys have not, they have not established that that's what happened. The reason I have not played Suicide Squad, the game, but the biggest complaints that I saw was that the missions were repetitive. That was like the biggest complaint that I saw. The combat was kind of good, but the story was and the missions were kind of repetitive. The other two, the two like other like really big games that Sweet Baby Inc. consulted for were God of War Ragnarok, which was one of the best reviewed games of, when did it come out? 2022, and audience score was super high. And Alan Wake 2, which was another game that was critically and do you say commercially when we're talking about fans? Critically and commercially loved. So like what is the evidence that Sweet Baby Inc. caused like their wokeness actually hurt these games? What's the evidence for that?
For me, this feels like a framing down to not necessarily the problem. You're using something that's like, of course, Sweet Baby Inc. I don't know. I wasn't there. I wasn't sitting in on the meetings. I didn't see, like, I don't know if a Sweet Baby Inc. representative was specifically like, you must include the deaf black girl side mission or else we're going to throw a fucking fit. And by the way, I haven't played Alan Wake 2 or what was the other one that they did? Suicide Squad? I haven't played either. Yeah, well, and then Suicide Squad, I think that probably the one that people most felt was ham-fisted was like Harley Quinn executing Batman or some shit like that.
What does that have to do with wokeness?
Well, because it's a woman. So the point being that, like,
you're not exactly all right.
No, but
well,
I'm probably going to say what you're going to say.
Let's give Wheezy a try. But also, I wanted to also frame this hypothetical.
Why do we have to prove that?
I want to frame this hypothetical. We all know that what would happen if you took a traditionally black character and you made him white. It would be whitewashing. They'd be all over it. But all the time, and it's no big deal, if you take a traditionally white character and make him black or make him a woman, no one, I mean, like, it's just accepted. It's okay to do. But I wanted to give it
annoyed.
I wanted to give it to Wheezy, and I wanted to give it to Peter. And if you have examples or proof or evidence or anything, right? Because that's what we need in this conversation. Examples. I think Hutch and Rico are right. Like, we need specific examples we can crunch on. So if you got any, Wheezy, I'd love to hear them.
Well, I think Sweet Baby Inc. was just the catalyst for all this. I think
or lightning rod.
That well, there you go. Like a nuclear bomb on the games industry. Sweet Baby Inc. And we have to, everybody knows that was following this thing from the point that it started, was that this blew out of proportion and exploded because one Sweet Baby Inc. employee was trying to get somebody suspended on Steam. That's how it started. That's it. Now everybody's looking at this company and going, okay, what do they do? Oh, well, they're sensitivity writers and they have to make sure that it's inclusive, this, that, and the other. This came from their website. Then you have Sweet Baby Inc. coming out going, no, that's not what we do. That's, we don't do anything. We're just consultants. Then you have and this is the main focus. You want me to sit here and rant about games journalism all day long? I will. Then you had almost every single outlet saying, oh, Sweet Baby Inc. did nothing wrong. It's all the gamers. The gamers are bad. They're bigots. They're racist. This, that, and the other. Again, the games journalism industry making things worse. When they could have just said, okay, this is what, and I think only one outlet did that. Here's what Sweet Baby Inc. does. Here's what they've worked on. Here's what happened. And that's it. Just the facts. None of these fluff pieces about what they do and who they are and that they're great people and that if you don't like them, you're a racist. I think that's what all of this boils down to at this point.
Would you agree that part of, and we can disagree on the extent, but would you agree that part of the driving force of both Gamergate 1 and Gamergate 2 is reactionary young men who do not like the very sight of quote unquote marginalized groups, whatever, in games? And it really is that surface level. Would you agree that, and again, we can disagree on the extent, but do you disagree that is a force behind both of these movements?
I would say in the original Gamergate, yes. The original Gamergate was a shit show. Right. I don't think they accomplished anything.
No, but for this one as well, yeah.
I would say it's less this time and more normal people going, hey, you people are trying to gaslight us. I have seen way more less reactionary people, and I am by no means a reactionary, going, wait a minute, this is kind of weird. Why are all these people saying the same thing with the same story about the same company, from all these outlets?
Don't you have to establish how they infected these games with wokeness to the extent that it actually hurt the games? I haven't heard that established yet.
I don't even think anybody knows what the word woke means anymore.
No. All of you shut up for a minute. All you shut up. Hutch. If you walked in on your wife, girlfriend, significant other's room, and suddenly she slams her laptop shut, right? And she hides it, and you're like, "What are you doing?" Nothing. Well, can I look at to see what you're doing? No, just I wasn't doing anything. right? You may not have any proof or know anything is going on, right? But it's a little suspicious.
This is a flawed analogy. I'm simply asking you. Yes, I'm simply asking you. Isn't that the whole point of the discussion? I'm simply asking you. Okay, the charge is that this company is infecting wokeness in these games, and it's to the detriment of the game's quality. Okay, simply make the case. Which games? How was this accomplished? I'm sorry, I need more than just Harley Quinn shot Batman.
But if you want to hold on. If you want to reframe it in your direction, I'm going to reframe it in my direction, which is basically, is there annoying, cringe, progressive bullshit in video games and in culture in general? And isn't it so pervasive that it's fucking annoying to the point that it should be called out?
I'm asking for specifics. I want to engage with you on this
we already
conversation.
gave you half a dozen. We already told you there's all these narratively flawed fucking video games and
you gave me
desexualization of fucking characters.
Hold on. You gave me Laura Croft's boobs are smaller. You gave me Harley Quinn killed Batman, and you gave me Peter Parker was portrayed as like a down on his luck dork, which he is in every fucking iteration. Every characterization of Peter Parker is this way. I need more. So can you guys please establish?
Yeah. So let's say 95% of people who play like video games as a hobby or whatever, or probably pushing 80 to 95% are men. And then in the fucking like the new Gears of War thing, we have a female protagonist. Who the fuck is this for? Who the fuck is this for? The entire fucking series is about steroided out dudes chainsawing fucking monsters with machine guns, and you put a fucking a female protagonist for what fucking reason does that serve?
You're playing directly into my. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
I was gonna say why do I need to justify that?
Why do you need to justify that? Because if we're talking about representation, where people want to see themselves in media, then why wouldn't you put the avatar of people who see themselves in media as either something that's customizable or as representative of who you're selling the product to?
I'm not. Say that again? What?
It's to be fucking annoying. That's why. It's to be annoying. Hey, you're a woman now. Enjoy being a woman. I know you like steroided dudes with fucking machine guns murdering the fuck out of bugs, but you got tits now. Good luck.
You're not exactly beating the allegations that woman equals woke. Like that's what your argument is boiling down to here.
I would say that representation of marginalized communities is progressive. Yes, I would say that.
Well, the point
the representation alone is woke to you, right?
If the representation is bad and it doesn't make sense, then
Did you play the game?
No, I fucking didn't, but I know what Gears of War is. Because I played the other Gears of War, and I'm pretty sure this was the most panned Gears of War in the entire series, and half of the fucking complaints were about the fact that the narrative didn't fucking make sense.
I'm asking you
counterpoints question, because you're right that the majority of gamers are men, and the majority of gamers are also white men. As someone else, I don't remember who pointed out that I'm only 13% of the population.
Men like tits and machine guns. Yes.
So the inclusion, would you say the inclusion of what's that the football player in Gears of War? No, the football player in Gears of War. He's Coltrane. Would you say that was forced? Like, what was the justification for?
I think he's a beloved character.
He's only 13% of the population. He's one of the only black main characters in the whole cast, whereas the majority of them are all white. You think he's a person main character because you find him entertaining, which is good.
Because do you know why narratively?
What's the justification for culture?
Yeah, which in this goes back to women equals bad. No, it doesn't. Tanya in Command and Conquer Red Alert, awesome. Ghost from fucking StarCraft, awesome. The Zerg fucking queen from StarCraft, awesome.
And in the case of Gears, woman equals
Gears.
Yeah, that game got an 84 Metacritic and a 7.1 audience score. So broadly, it was liked. So I don't know where you're getting this idea that everybody hated it, but in the case of Gears of War 4, you're saying woman equals woke.
Yeah, sometimes. So, for instance, Let's actually break down. Hold on. I want to answer Rico. He asked me a question. I want to answer.
Briefly, then we got to get
Because
other people in.
If you're in an existential conflict, okay, where bugs are bursting out of the ground, bug fucking mutants that are fucking eating everybody and slaughtering babies in their cribs and fucking murdering everybody, then who are you going to turn to as the special forces that you're going to send down into the fucking tunnels? I can think of nobody fucking better than a 7-foot-tall, 300-pound, roided out fucking former football player who can rip a fucking locust head off with his goddamn bare hands. That representation makes sense.
Hey, no, see that your logic is you're not applying it to the situation. Like you made a carve out in your mind for women, because if that was the situation that we're in, we'd arm every able-bodied human being, man, woman, wouldn't fucking matter. We're an existential threat. We'd arm everybody, anyone, everyone.
We are missing the point, I feel, of all this.
Okay, I've got one.
Okay.
The main one that everybody was bitching about, which is God of War and Angrboda. Does it make sense? And people are going to say it's mythology. You can do whatever the fuck you want. But does it make sense to make a Norse goddess black? And why would you do it?
Does it make sense to have? Make sense to have a Norse god with a Greek father?
No, it doesn't.
Okay, so
but
by that
at
point,
the same time, would they do the same thing? Let's say they wanted to represent Guan Yu, right, in games media. Do you think they're going to touch Guan Yu? No, they're not going to change. Guan Yu is like the Chinese God of War.
Chinese God of War, yeah.
Okay.
They're not going to do anything to that character, that mythological
you'll never
representation.
See a white Guan Yu.
They're not going to race swap. They're not going to touch it. Same thing with Anansi or Papa Legba in mythology. Do you think they're going to touch those mythological characters in that culture and change it? The answer is no.
It cuts one way.
Okay, so the question here again, the relevant question in my mind was how did this recasting of what's her name, Angrboda? Is that how you say her name? Angrboda. Did that take away from the story at all?
I mean, that
if we're saying it breaks immersion, I'm sorry. If you're playing a Greek god who is somehow the father of Loki and you've somehow made it to Midgard, you've already bought into the idea that they're not doing a strict adaptation of Norse mythology. They're using inspiration from Norse mythology to tell an original story. And it just so happened that it takes place in a region of the or it's supposed to like represent like the Nordic states or whatever. And so it's a very homogenized kind of like mostly white thing. So if a developer decides, you know what, like we definitely want to prioritize inclusivity. Here's this one character. We'll just do a little swap in there. I don't understand how that like hurt the narrative or breaks immersion.
Can I ask you, Hutch,
it's
just
annoying.
if I may? So fair enough, but if you have this rich lore-filled game with Thor and these other names very on point for the setting, everything's good, and then one of the gods is named Timmy, just Timmy, right? A little distracting, a little out of place, little like wait, what?
Wait, you
it
can
doesn't
accept
fit
Greek
in
gods,
with
but
anything
you
else.
can't accept a BMW 528i? What's wrong with you?
That is a horrible analogy for this.
Why?
Because
what I'm pointing out here
what he's saying is that it's
out of place nature of an otherwise
the giant's race in Norse mythology, as far as I understand, is never specified. So in this world, they decided. Sorry, go ahead.
I wanted to ask what you're saying is that it's jarring, which is
yes,
a
immediately
fair
pulls you out.
What is the fair thing to say? But I asked you a question: is why is it jarring to you? It's not to me. And
because
I mean, because I know y'all have said this that it only cuts one way with regards to race swapping and whatnot.
No, it would be equally jarring if you had a story about
but it's not jarring. But I'm saying I've played.
If you had a story about African mythology, and suddenly one of the guys in there was white, it would be what?
I wouldn't give a shit if you made Anansi white. I wouldn't give a shit. Why do y'all care? That's the question.
Everyone else would.
Care?
If the Black Panther handed off the fucking mantle and the crown to a fucking honky, he's like,
canonically, there's a character named the White Wolf, and he was white. Any,
No,
No. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about if
It
fucking
happened. It
Black
literally
Panther.
happened. I'm just telling you.
No. Okay, so hold on. White Wolf replaced Black Panther?
And no.
He took the powers of the Black Panther, I think. Hold on. I don't know anything about that character.
Wait here, hold on.
We're talking about narratively.
Hold on.
Not having a white sidekick. We're talking about a fucking black character getting replaced by a white character, not a white sidekick.
I want to answer that. At what point? At what point do we just say why? Like, because my contention on that is just like I don't care. I wouldn't give a shit. And I kind of look at y'all who do give a shit. The people who do give I look at y'all as ridiculous.
I'll break bread with you on that. You know what? If it starts cutting in multiple directions, I won't give a fuck. Let's say that God of War. Hold up. Let's say that the God of War video games come out next year, and it's all Asian fucking gods, right? They all look Chinese, Japanese as fuck, right? And then there's just some fucking white dude named Timmy who's the fucking cousin of the gods, and he fucking shows up and has a 20-minute fucking cameo. I'll probably laugh my fucking ass off because I think it's going to be shitty writing. But if I see it start going in multiple directions, then I'll think it's funny. I think the reason why people are fucking annoyed is because it goes in one direction.
My whole point, and then I want to pass it off to Peter for a minute. My whole point with this, right, and the reason why it is jarring, and again, I can usually get over it if the game's good enough, right? It doesn't matter, or the movie's good enough. Like Napoleon shooting cannonballs at the pyramid was jarring because it was like, what? Right? What? It's that kind of thing, right? It's not about the diversity, representation, etc. It's about how out of place and distracting it is to the thing. And to bring this again, I'm really trying to bring this back. Like, again, we have to ask, why are all these games journalists, why are all these outlets running covers for Sweet Baby Inc? Why are they all refusing to talk about this honestly? There could be valid answers, but they ain't giving it to us, and it does make us ask a question. And I think it's a very valid question to ask. Okay, if they're not doing what, if they're not shoehorning all this stuff in, if that's not what they're doing, then why are they so concerned about a list being made out of them? Why are they so concerned with people asking these questions? It does kind of raise an eyebrow. But I want to pass it off to Peter for a minute. I know he's been trying to get in and helping his way in. So Peter, go ahead. You got the floor. What do you got?
Okay.
Where to start? I know. Go ahead.
I'll break it up to. I'll move it back to what you were first asking. So I'm going to divide this into two parts. So do we have evidence directly of Sweet Baby? You know, this is where and like I said, I'm not Gamergate, and I have been very critical this whole time of a lot of what they've had here. Do we have direct evidence that Sweet Baby Inc. is changing games that otherwise would have not been that way? And there's no evidence. There is zero evidence to prove that these companies wouldn't have already done it. We've seen it plenty in the AAA Western gaming space. This is just something they like to do. Even when they worked with like Capcom on Resident Evil 4 and Facebook was involved. This is what they like to do. And so you have to ask, well, would this have been different if they were getting a consultancy group or not? We have no proof. There is zero proof that it goes there. Would it be a surprise if it did? No. But there's no evidence, and I as someone that covers a lot of issues that are much more important than actually what's happening with gamers. Not that those aren't important to some extent, but real world things. It's important that you stick to facts and evidence where you are, because if you're trying to persuade people, especially that they don't know a lot about it, they're in the middle, that's good. Are there problems with game developers and game journalism that they are injecting not so much their politics, but their ideology and their lens in which they view the world? Yes, 1,000 times yes. We just had in the last week several stories, including one of the top Pokemon lawyers. This guy works for Game Freak and Nintendo, and also Neon Tech for the Pokemon Go. He was talking about how it was part of his job. The job of HR was to look for people who are sympathetic to Gamergate and to keep those people out of the industry. I have personally seen it in games journalism multiple times with my buddy Gene Parkett over at the Washington Post. This is last year, okay? This is before he finds out he's in remission for cancer, which is an answer from heaven. Honestly, it is. So the man has cancer, and he decides he's going to go on Colin Moriarty's show. Now, Colin is actually, like a lot of people who say they're conservative, he actually is one. But he was big at IGN back in the day. He has a very successful podcast. Gene goes on the show, and then many of the people, including people at Polygon, Destructoid, Kotaku go out of their way to try to cancel this man. Now, Gene has never heard of Fly. He's one of the nicest people I think I've ever met in my entire life, in or outside journalism. That didn't matter. That didn't cross their minds. They still tried to destroy the man. And that's the kind of thing that does happen. And it's like, I agree, we should be specific where it counts. Yes, but are you saying that there is an ideology problem where it's not conservatives? Troy Levitt, who worked in Hogwarts Legacy, he say, go fire this guy because they want to have a trans character. No, Hogwarts Legacy did have a trans character. What is happening though is we are having people who view the other way and they're being pushed out. And when gamers who are conservative, or maybe they're just not entirely political, and they say, hey, wait a second, why does this keep happening, and why are we the bad guys when we point it out?
Well, let me
can I ask you, that is a problem.
Can I ask you a question? So for Spider-Man 2, for example, I saw a tweet blow up, and it was the side of a big building in Spider-Man 2. It was a giant rainbow flag, and then that kicked off a bunch of discourse. And then I think Adam from Adam and Sitch said something to the effect of, imagine what the backlash would have been if that would have been a MAGA flag.
True.
Do you see the inclusion? We can get into that. I think that's total nonsense. But do you see this? Do you see the simple inclusion of like a rainbow flag on the side of a building? Would you call that like an inherently political jab at conservatives?
I would say no, but then why did the games media and certain developers praise it when Nexus Mod said, actually, you're not allowed to alter that? We'll alter it in our own games that we sell it outside of the West. We're selling it to places like Ukraine, Russia, Saudi Arabia, parts of Africa. You know, Myanmar, we're gone. Any of the pro-trans, pro-feminist, gone.
Mm-hmm.
If you try to edit that out of the game, if you even just try to change this, that was all the mod did, was it just changed the region flag. So instead of using the textures in the
why would you want
normal
to mod
game, you're using the textures that show up in the game in the Middle East. Why was it so bad when they did that? And then we'd have everyone, how dare you do that? Well, what do you mean? The company themselves are
to be
changing
clear,
it.
if I'm remembering this correctly, because I do recall this, they banned the mod, right?
Yes.
You were literally not allowed, right?
Should they be forced to host at like every mod? This kind of reminds me of
the mod that they created.
What? No, modders.
No.
these
Nexus.
things.
So Nexus mods is a.
I feel like I'm debating.
No. Hold on.
Where it's like, I'm just going to talk about legally technical things, and I'm going to blow the rest of you off.
No.
Like,
Hold on. Didn't.
why am I even here?
The mod was changing.
Whoa.
Hold on. Peter, go ahead. Give your thing. I'm sorry. We're a rowdy bunch here. Okay, you gotta excuse us. But Peter,
I have zero problem with
criticism.
any of this stuff. If you want to put rainbow, if you want to have trans characters, awesome. I have zero problem whatsoever with it. But it is absolutely true that there is a disdain for people who are more towards the right wing, who are more traditional. And if they have complaints, it isn't saying your complaints are just as legitimate as the people who are trans, black, on that side of the aisle. No, you're bad. Now, when people on the other side, Gamergate, say people who are trans, feminist, and say they're bad, I am against it. I think most people are. But this only goes in one direction, and it is a thing. Like pretending it doesn't exist.
No, I'm saying it exists, and I don't have a problem with it. If the owner and operator of Nexus Mods decide that they don't want to host what they would consider to be queerphobic, homophobic mods, then they can just take them off.
Hold on. No, we got to point this out.
Wait, hold on. This is like hold on. This is like they kind of it reminds me of the Twitter situation where a lot of conservatives seem to think that social media platforms should be like literally forced to host all content and just like have no moderation, I guess. If you want to do your own mod platform where you get rid of the rainbow flag, fine. That's like whatever. That's just a private. This is a private company, and if the owners and operators don't want to be associated with queerphobic mods, which let's be clear, that's what we're talking about here, right? Like, there's only one reason.
No, we're not.
Why else would you want to get rid of a rainbow flag?
Why?
No.
Because it would be neutral. Because you're not promoting it and you're not denigrating it. You're not doing either.
Whoa. If you go to New York, if you go to New York right now, you're going to see rainbow flags. So you're talking about a game that literally. So it's lore accurate New York. You're going to see these flags if you go to New York.
Okay, hold on. Let's just make some things fucking absolutely clear. I don't give a flying fuck if people are gay, and if I see a rainbow flag in my fucking video game, I'm gonna ignore it and I'm gonna keep playing. Okay, but there is something like progressive, conservative, and neutral. Okay, so if they had never included the fucking rainbow flag, then nobody would have fucking noticed. Everybody would have played the game. Everybody would have shut the fuck up about it. Now, if they put a bunch of MAGA flags in that, then it obviously would have been sympathetic to Trump. And then if they put a bunch of fucking Black Lives Matter fucking BLM and fucking rainbow flags in that shit, obviously they're leaning progressive. So you're saying that moving it back to neutral, the exact terms you used were queerphobic and transphobic, which is fucking insane. It's neutral.
Here's the counter to that.
Hold on. Sorry, go ahead.
A mod that removes the flags and makes New York City look like New York City is queerphobic?
Wheezy, give your counterexample, please. This might...
The counterexample is they removed and banned the person that all they did was replace the pride flag with American flags. And that was so incredibly egregious and offensive, as you're putting it, queerphobic, homophobic, whatever.
Why are you guys waffling at that?
Because the same platform.
Who's waffling? What the fuck are you talking about?
Let him speak, Connor.
The same platform, Nexus Mods, allowed a mod where if you're playing Hogwarts Legacy, you can replace the classic-looking paintings, Renaissance-looking art with pride flags. That is why people were like, wait a minute, all this does is replace it with the American flag, but you're allowing one that completely replaces artwork with pride flags.
So Nexus Mods is not a...
Correct me if I'm wrong, just because I've been trying to make sure I understand. Or is the complaint here that the what's the word I just had in my head? I'm sorry. Inconsistent. Sorry, there we go. Inconsistent application of censorship.
I would say yes.
I would say so for me, I would say that the best stories that I have played in games over the past 10 years, I didn't notice the fucking identity of anybody involved at all because it just told a good goddamn story.
That's what you're saying. And then Peter and Wheezy, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Peter and Wheezy, the two of you were saying about that's y'all argument was with regards to the inconsistent application of censorship and whatnot, right?
Correct. Leaning more towards, as Connor put it, progressivism.
Yeah, right. Connor, you're saying you wanted to be neutral. Wheezy and Peter, you're saying you at least be consistent with this application. Listen, right?
I'll enjoy, but here's the thing: is like I could enjoy a conservative leaning video game, and I wouldn't care if lefties lost their shit about it. So, for instance, like I understand Helldivers 2 is supposed to be like a satire on like a fascist organization or whatever the fuck, but the truth is that if you just embrace the role playing whatever of it, then you can enjoy like a centrist, fascist, democratic utopia. It's fucking fantastic. And not only that, I think that lefties and progressives online have lost their fucking minds to the point that they were trying to retrofit the Halo series 1 through 3 as a satire of militarism. I don't know where there was ever a thematic inclination that Halo was a satire of militarism, but they're trying to shoehorn fucking politics into it after the fact. So my whole point is that, like, if you want to have it lean one way, okay, cool. Own that it's leaning it that way. And then if somebody does some shit that is no skin off of your fucking ass, half of the arguments here are, if it's not bothering you, then why do you give a fuck? I don't see how changing the fucking gay flags to American flags affects you in the fucking slightest.
That's precisely my point. I'm not saying it should be neutral. You're saying it should be neutral. Nexus Mods, as a private company, they get to be whatever company they want. They can have whatever values they want. If there was, for example, yes, and if there was, for example, a conservative version,
if Nexus Mods would ban anyone who uploaded a trans positive or gay positive mod, I think you would be singing a different tune.
I wouldn't be saying like we should take it off the internet. If you'll allow me, I was just about to say, if conservatives came up with their own like conservative-led modding platform and they wanted to do those things, I wouldn't like it, but I'm not going to tell them not to do it. And if people are going to search that content out, so be it. But Nexus gets to be whatever they want to be. Like, what's the argument that they're just supposed to?
Hold
Just,
up. Do you have the same energy for Twitter? Do you have the same energy for Twitter?
what about Twitter?
Well, go ahead.
Do you
go ahead.
have the same energy for Twitter? Is it a private company? It can do what it wants, and even if it loses money, then who gives a
Yes.
fuck? It's a private platform.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, at least we're consistent.
Yes.
No, well, yeah,
it's Twitter. It's Elon's Twitter. He can do whatever. Sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. I'm sorry, Hutch. What I'm basically saying here is that it's not. You're not wrong to say that the private companies can do whatever they want effectively, how they moderate their their content and such. The problem, the argument that they're making essentially, and y'all can correct me if I'm wrong, is not that they shouldn't be able to, but it's that it's wrong that they are being so inconsistent. It is sending bad signals. It is just it's just problematic, so to speak. It's just a problem that that either it only cuts one way, or it's just inconsistent in general. Like with regards to censorship on Twitter, for example, for the longest time, I would see people complaining about the censorship and whatnot. But the problem with the real crux of it was the inconsistent application of the censorship. You know what I mean? Like where big platform, big following can do things that little followers absolutely can't fucking do. And that inconsistency, like just if you're gonna have terms of service or some shit, apply them equally to everybody. That's not what happens, and we know that's not what happens.
It got for me it feels like it got flipped in the opposite direction. Now we got like I would say overt anti-Semitism out the fucking ass, but then we have progressive channels getting fucking hit pretty goddamn hard. So for me, what I would say is that we should come together as an American community and agree on some rules of discourse where I don't jam my politics into your fucking face and you don't jam your politics into my face. But it seems like what's good for this is good for the gander, so fuck it.
Okay, $5 from Origin of Logos. I gotta make my money, gang. And gang, if you want a super chat, I will read your super chats, gang. Give me money.
Send the man some money.
Exactly. Origin of Logos for $5. What's wrong with the rainbow? Jawway formed it as a reminder never to flood the world again. My heart leaps up when I behold. Okay, thank you. Go ahead.
Peter, what were you about to say?
I would say that that's why when I said earlier about that, I wasn't saying it was injecting politics, but it was their ideology, or more so just the lens, the way they view the world. I believe, and many people who aren't even particularly political, and some on the right, this used to be more true on the right than it is now, that there should be neutral spaces that are outside of our political and cultural fights, that this is like anyone can be here. This is a safe space, so to speak. We're not going to bring politics and drag all that stuff in because it's divisive. And yes, it's important to people, but it's important that people of different persuasions and worldviews can come together. The problem is, parts of the left view that everything is political and that every space should be put through the world lens. And this is why you often hear that all art is political. Why do you have a problem with this comic? Don't you understand that every comic is political? Because everything is political. And I just fundamentally, while I'm not conservative, I fundamentally disagree with that worldview, because neutral spaces are important, because this division is a problem, and it gets exacerbated when you're told, well, you're not valid to be here. And when it happens to people on the left who are trans, gay, black, it's wrong. But it's equally wrong the other direction. And I think that there are some people, more so in media than in the games industry, but there are some in the games industry that feel that it's okay to do that now because historically in the past people did it in the other direction. And fundamentally, on a intellectual and a moral level, I find that wrong. And it's a problem, and I don't really know how to get around it. And I know we may not necessarily agree on a lot of this stuff, but I do hope we can find a common space to feel like, even places like social media, a leveled, fair playing field, and not even just a playing field, just a space removed from all the constant culture war crap in our lives.
Peter, actually, I wanted to give you a great example of a politically neutral space, the military, for example. It doesn't matter what your politics are. You're not allowed to basically, especially in uniform, you're not allowed to express that shit online, anywhere. You cannot be a part of protest or any type of march, any of that shit. Is, again, especially in uniform and even online, you cannot express your politics. Your politics are welcome. for it, so to speak. Like, you can come in as a conservative, socialist, whatever the fuck. You can come in as whatever the fuck you are, but you keep your politics to yourself. But for that to, to remain neutral, that has to be enforced. In other words, everyone has to be censored, told to shut the fuck up, or and punished for breaking that rule. And that's what we do, and that's why the military is by and large apolitical. And again, I promise you, having talked to a lot of these motherfuckers, they have very strongly held political beliefs, but they know they can't fucking share that shit, or they're going to get fucked.
So what's the argument here?
The argument I'm trying to make here is, I understand what you want is realistic. It is possible. However, this is going to run into the issue of that, everybody complains about. The real crux of it is censorship. And everyone on all sides, everyone hates being censored, especially on social media and whatnot. And my argument is, like, at a certain point, we have to do the thing, the military does in that sense, and that's tell people, I'm sorry, shut the fuck up. This is neutral. Shut the fuck up. You got a problem with it, try me, and you're out of here, type of shit. That's my argument.
Sure. I want to toss it to Hutch. He's been trying to get in. Go ahead.
Sorry,
Well,
Hutch.
the problem... No, you're good. The problem, as I see it, is that the concept of neutrality is entirely subjective. So you're, Connor and sorry, I'm really bad with names. I don't mean to be disrespectful. Say your name one more time for me. Is it Peter, right?
Oh, Peter.
Weezy Pillar.
Peter. Okay, sorry.
Anyways,
The problem, as I see it, is that neutrality is entirely subjective. So for some people, the sight of a rainbow flag is like a jab to the gut. It's like they are just shoving it down my throat. My values be damned. I got to look at this rainbow flag. I don't think that behavior should be normalized. I think it is an abomination. Maybe I'm super religious or something like that. When I see a rainbow flag, it's neutral to me. This is just a reflection of reality. It doesn't affect me. And I'm not, like which perspective is right or wrong. These are the wrong questions. The point is that it's subjective. And when you have, like, I've heard Connor a couple times now for referring to these video games, it literally boiled down to, like, woman equals woke, black deaf equals woke. These are not, like, to me, those are neutral things. Those to me are not, like, they don't offend any kind of, like, neutrality.
Yeah. So hold on. So
can I say something? I think
go ahead and I'll write mine down.
I think that's entirely the problem. I've had the chance to speak with many game journalists over the year. Never really been successful myself in the gaming industry, but I've been blessed enough to know another. And the conversation usually goes like this. I'll give you an example. Patricia Hernandez, the former EIC of Kotaku, who's actually a very nice, lovely lady in person. And if the conversation goes like, well, why don't you let more people who are right-wing or conservative? And they say, well, I'm okay with them until they're hate-filled. And then you talk to them, and hate-filled means, it can mean anything, because it's like anything that goes against the progressive slate of beliefs. This is our feeling is this is the normal, right? And so if you're outside of it, you're not just disagreement, you're bad. And you're like, well, this is all subjective. And I agree, it is all subjective, but your subjective is like normal is like slid to the left. So everything that happens over here, and I don't know where my hands are waving because I'm in front of this computer, is illegitimate. And that is a very, very common belief throughout media, entertainment, where a lot of lefties preside. I see this attitude more on the right now, and it really worries me. But what got us into this position was that worldview, because it's like I can go to them and be like, look, I agree with you on many things. People should be fair and kind and not jackasses. But if someone says, well, I don't feel comfortable maybe having like trans education at schools, like I feel like the LGBT stuff should be kept at home. Well, it's not that, well, we disagree. It's you're actually a bad person. Your opinion shouldn't be allowed to go out there. And while I'm not saying that any of you here hold that opinion. However, too often today in society, people that have positions to communicate ideas, to have influence, do. And that doesn't help things, because I know that many of the people on the right in Gamergate are acting crazy, but it just adds fuel to the fire. And now instead of just feeling like one side was crazy and then one side was overreacting, now everyone is crazy. And I don't think that's any better.
I just, you know,
Go ahead, Connor.
Sorry.
Oh,
Yeah.
well,
So
one at a time. Yeah, go ahead.
yeah. So I wanted to address the fact that you said diverse characters are neutral, pride flag is neutral, and maybe I would view the American flag as neutral, whereas some progressives wouldn't necessarily view the American flag as neutral. So I understand that it's objective, but what I would do is, let's say that I was a capitalist. Let's say that I was trying to market to a certain demographic. Let's say that I knew that that demographic was overwhelmingly male, and then I further knew that it was overwhelmingly white, although that was changing demographically. Okay, what I would probably do is, if they were overrepresented within a market, I would probably cater to their interests. So the reason why I would include boobs and scantily clad women is because a lot of heterosexual men who are a majority of the gaming population, they like boobs, right? And then the reason why I would include guns and explosions is because they also like guns and explosions. And so I would do that. Now, of course, there's an argument to be made that maybe part of the reason why you don't see more female representation or more people of color representation in gaming is because that it was so catered to the white male gaze for decades, really, right? So what I would say is, if I was trying to include those people, then I would try to find what those people were interested in specifically as a demographic, and then I would try to include it holistically, not to the denigration of any demographic, but to the inclusion of all.
Hold on.
So that's why I like fucking Coltrane.
Counterpoints. Hold on.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it sounds like then you would be in favor of someone like Sweet Baby Inc. or another diversity group.
If they did their job well.
Specifically come in and, to the best of their ability, find out what these other demographics, the non-white, non-male demographics, non-straight demographics, want in games, and then cater to that. What is inherently wrong with that? And $5 from Sarah Morph, if I may read this real quick. How are companies forcing their agendas into anyone's face when anyone can just make a choice to not buy it? You're allowed to not purchase content.
True. And that's why a lot of people are voting with their dollar. That's why I would say that if I looked at the gaming experiences that I have valued over the past decade, it has been probably two: Titanfall 2 and Helldivers. And both of those were just fantastically narrative, well-built, creative, excellent sandbox, great weapons. I have interesting narratively. Like, I have nothing negative to say about those games, whereas the ones that I do have something bad to say is like Halo 4, which had a lot of dog shit fucking design elements. So anyways,
I can 100% guarantee that Respawn took efforts with Titanfall 2 to be inclusive. Like, that they're an inclusive company just like by their culture.
Okay. Yeah, what I would say is whatever their so for instance, what's interesting about Titans, right? Let's just deep dive a little bit as an example, right? What's interesting about Titans and the Titanfall universe is that everybody's fighting. Somebody mentioned that earlier. So for instance, like, when you're all fighting, then you might have females that are a part of your warrior cast. Also, the mechs, the Titans, they give you superhuman fucking strength because they're literally 20-foot tall fucking war machines. So like, having a competent female commander that is capable of interfacing with a Titan better than anybody else is not necessarily unheard of. Not only that, but agility is like a huge part of it. So you're not just looking for 7-foot tall fucking monsters. You're looking for like people who are nimble and fast and strong and stealthy and a variety of different attributes. And then finally, not just that, I'm pretty sure I remember some of the villains being female. God forbid, the villains. But you know what was interesting about them is because you could be sexist against them because you're like, oh, why is a woman being a warrior? But they were so cruel and vicious and mean that their characterization took over your suspension of disbelief, where you'd be like, why is a woman being like a warrior leader? So that's why I didn't even necessarily notice the diversity, because the characterization was so good.
Okay, before you respond, I want to get Wheezy in here because Wheezy's trying. And I also have a question. Go ahead, Wheezy.
No, I just wanted to piggyback off that super chat about, well, if you don't like it, then don't buy it. And the whole point of this panel was to talk about Gamergate 2.0 as one of the talking points. And that list that they tried to get removed was just that, a list of games that Sweet Baby Inc. has worked on. I think it was something like Did Sweet Baby Inc. work on this? Yes or no? That's all it was.
Yeah.
Yes, they worked on it. No, they didn't work on it. But that was egregious enough for them and everybody else to call it harassment and this, that, and the other, to where Kotaku journalists have to infiltrate Discords to find something. Okay, well, obviously they're doing this because they're, insert buzzword here. And that was the whole point, to vote with your wallet. I don't like what they do, or I don't like what their politics are, what have you. People are allowed to do that. If you don't like something, don't buy it.
Right.
Why was that so offensive to them just to have a list?
The list in and of itself was not problematic. It's, as you suggested, there were journalists that actually did go into the Discord, and I feel like we're all well aware of the fact that in Gamergate 1 and Gamergate 2, there have been a particular hyper reactionary element to both of these movements that would then go on to resort to wildly disproportionate levels of like what they would call retribution. So trying to dox people, rape threats, death threats, like these kinds of things are obviously an issue. Obviously an issue, right?
I want to say two things on that. For one, to Hutch, to piggyback off you, y'all remember the backlash of The Last of Us 2? The voice actress for Abby, Laura Bailey, recently came out in an interview pointing out that she and her child got actual death threats. So I want to point out, the point of what I'm trying to get to here is this, that it's twofold. On the one hand, Wheezy, you're right. It's okay to make lists. Hey, we don't want to do any business with these companies because they do XX, whatever the fuck. The problem that people are at least alluding to, or explicitly stating, is that this often gets way the fuck out of hand. People blow it way the fuck out of proportion, and the worst.
Were you against that list, thatwizardgame.com? I think that was the website where they listed everyone who played Harry Potter.
Who, me?
Were you against that? Yeah, you.
Me? I didn't know that fucking existed until you just said it.
Okay. What about you?
That existed.
Yeah. Were you against it?
I thought it was cringe as fuck. I thought everybody used it was a fucking loser. But I wasn't thinking to myself, oh, it should be nuked off the internet.
Okay.
Yeah, no. That's what I'm saying. I'm trying to say is that the concept of trying to start a boycott or whatever that's fine. Voting with your wallet, that's fine. If there's anything I have to ask, is maybe let's if we're gonna have some criticism, let them be based on facts and actual fucking arguments, as Peter said, and for the love of God, be careful about this shit, because the craziest motherfuckers out there, they're just looking for a reason. And if we tell them, hey, this company is evil and destroying the culture and destroying games, and they're coming after us and they hate us, well,
hold on.
Yeah, hold on. No, stop. I want to get through this because you're correct, but that's exactly what happened with thatwizardgame.com. Is a lot of people took this list, right? Cringe, everything, but allowed to do, and they used it to harass, make death threats, dox, etc. people who would play this game on the list. The existence of a list, right, will inherently mean that some people overreact. But the question becomes, much like with what Sweet Baby Inc. tried to do with the list for Sweet Baby Inc. Detected, I don't think that gives them ground or a reason to nuke it off the internet. And that's what Sweet Baby Inc., the employee, was trying to do. He was trying to get this list, Sweet Baby Inc. Detected, nuked off the internet. And the person who made it, their account banned with thousands of dollars worth of gains. That's what people are mad about. That's what people are upset about. That's the only reason I'm talking about this, is because I'll be real with you, I don't give a shit about the woke stuff. I don't care. But when you have people in positions of power, game industry developers, game industry journalists, and again, people running cover for those people, right? Using the fact that a list exists as an excuse to target and try to destroy the lives of others, that's a problem for me.
I feel like
and that's what I think that Kotaku did. That's what I think The Guardian did. That's what I think all these different journals did when they did not frame it honestly what happened. They didn't. I've read these articles. They didn't talk about any of this harassment from the other side, right? That kicked this off, right? That kicked the hornet's nest. They didn't mention that.
I feel like there's some context missing here, though. So if you're a Sweet Baby Inc. employee or whatever, and now this curated list comes out on Steam, and now your coworkers and maybe even you are being inundated with doxing attempts, death threats, grape threats, these kinds of things. Do you think that it's sort of an understandable, even if you disagree, like with the substance of like what they were trying to do? Can you imagine the feeling of that in that moment? And can you imagine having a visceral response of like, we need to just like?
So I understand what you're saying, but baby, I get death threats, rape threats, etc. all the time, and I'm just a small boy creator, right? Like I'm just a guy. Like the most death threats and rape threats I've ever gotten was when I debate tankies. Okay, just FYI. Like
now
just
imagine
you know.
imagine if it was like
I can share with you the DMs.
Okay, but imagine if it was like 50 times. Imagine if it was like 50 times.
I understand, but see, here's the thing: what I didn't do in any of those cases was try to destroy other people. Like I didn't like, okay, they're doing it to me, I'm going to do it to you, right?
Wick,
because
Wick, you and I are very different people because you just because you can take it for some reason or another doesn't mean everybody else can. I know if I, or God forbid, my family suddenly started getting deaths and great threats, I would go. I would go above and beyond.
Okay?
Go ahead.
No, like if you did that, if you got a death threat and then you're just like, okay, you death threat me, I'm going to death threat you and your family and go.
That's not what we're saying. I'm not saying I'm going to death threat you and your family. I'm saying I'm coming after you to destroy your ability to cause this fucking deluge of bullshit coming my way.
But that's not. They weren't.
I'm not coming
going
after you.
The people
they
making these threats. Unless they have evidence that Cabrutus or any of the mods or anything of these things, what they were saying is they were getting shit, and so they picked people who were not giving them shit, right? And they targeted those people. It's like, you bum, if you come and you punch me in the face, so I went and I punched your friend in the face.
No,
your friend didn't punch me in the face. They're just associated with you, or I think they are.
Who did they give them the idea that that the friend should punch you in the face?
What? No, I'm using this as an analogy to say that the people that Sweet Baby Inc. that employee targeted weren't the ones that were giving him the death threats.
No, but the people they were targeting were the ones who made the list, right?
Yes.
So.
Oh.
I think
you understand how that's not the same thing at all.
I know a direct command to threaten somebody is vastly different from.
Hold on. What do you think this list was?
The list of the games that they worked on, right? That's what we're talking about still, right? Or are you talking about something else?
No, I'm talking about the list of the games people worked on. That wasn't a call to do anything except for here's a list of people who worked that you can choose to buy it or not.
Our point is it almost never is. That's not what we're saying. The point is, once you put this list out here, the list isn't even so much the problem. It's the rhetoric surrounding it, which is what I was saying about how so many people are framing this shit as literally an existential fucking threat. And
can I address that?
Go ahead.
Yeah, so I'm not huge into this because at the end of the day, I do believe in a liberal society. So I do believe that ideas that I even believe to be nefarious should be discussed. And also some of the virtues of what I'm going to be talking about they can have positive aspects to them. So when people talk about an existential crisis to the culture of the West, or they talk about the West has fallen because 500 fucking game dev nerds were screaming about patriarchy in San Francisco. I think those people are losers and they're fucking dorks and they have no confidence in their own culture's ability to evolve into something powerful. However, what they're talking about is in the early 20th century, there was a philosopher named Gramsci. He wrote like a treatise on why socialism and communism didn't work in industrialized nations. And he said it's because the civic culture wasn't developed enough in order to accept socialism and communism as palatable. And so what he recommended is that people take on cultural issues, trying to approach things from like economic justice, egalitarianism, equity, all that kind of stuff, in order to prepare the cultural landscape for the acceptance of socialism and communism. Then there was somebody who studied him named Marcuse, who was influential in the 60s and 70s, and he was the teacher who actually taught a lot of the authors who are responsible for what we call today critical theory. And the critical theory authors are responsible for a lot of the stuff that we've seen recently. Hold on, I'm not done yet, Wick. No, Wick, this is fucking important. Don't
Okay, we're
ring
going
the
through the
bell
fucking
on me when I'm
history
giving you
lesson.
horse.
I want to get.
Yeah, no
get to the
shit.
point.
We're talking about fucking.
Go
Hey,
for
Vladimir
it.
Putin.
What are we here to talk about?
No, go for it. I'm saying go for it. I'm listening.
Okay. So anyways, so what conservatives believe is existential is the fact that leftists are using the progressive culture war to seed the ground to be fertile for socialism and communism, which is why they call you commies and tankies and socialists and all that bullshit. And you're like, I'm a sock dem. They don't give a fuck because they view you as pushing in the same direction as Marcuse and Gramsci.
So now, my short, I'll keep it short, Wick. The short retort I have to that is the distinction with regards to rhetoric. If you're going to tell me, if you want to say to me that, hey, single payer healthcare is bad, here's why. That's fine. You know what I mean? It's another thing to say these people are to frame it in the vague allusions and in such a threatening way that next thing you know, this person is like truly fucking believes that, you know, they're going to lose everything. Like my life is in actual danger. I'm not in danger of you coming to when you say to me, "Hey, here's my policy. I would like."
So if I say,
you know what I mean? It's about the rhetoric, is what
Yeah.
I'm saying.
So if I
respond to
say,
that?
so hold on, if I say Trump and his supporters are fascists and they're a threat to democracy in America, and then someone hears me say that and goes and gives a bunch of Trump supporters death threats and rape threats, are people allowed to come and try to cancel me for what someone else fucking did with my fucking rhetoric?
I mean,
Well, define cancel. Define cancel.
No,
Exactly.
no,
Get me taken away.
I know what you mean. I know what you mean. Let me answer it. Basically, I will not. I can't fault anyone for taking issue with it. But but my point is that, you know, that's still a problem, right? Like, correct or not, we have to be careful with our rhetoric because it will inspire people. We know that it will. Not all, obviously, but all it takes is one crazy motherfucker who's like, this person, you're telling me this guy over here is a threat to my actual life? But you got to do something about it. And then they go do something about it.
Well, yeah. So the like Wick, this is part of my frustration with you fucking being like, well, can you wrap it up? Is because like this is what we're talking about. When you have MAGA talking about like the communist leftist infiltration of every majority institution, they're pointing to this history. Now, 80% of the fucking people don't know this history because they get interrupted on panels while it's being explained. However, that's why this is at the root. This is at the root of MAGA reactionary right-wing Republican shit.
Okay, so can I just say like whoever are the leaders of a particular movement, and when we're talking about Gamergate, we're mostly talking about, you know, you have the guy who got notoriety because he made the list, but we're mostly talking about like content creators are the ones that are like driving a lot of this discourse.
Right.
And,
Exactly.
Sorry, did you agree?
He said YouTube. We were agreeing with you. Go ahead.
So what I was going to say is that whatever movement is occurring, whether it's a left-wing movement or a right-wing movement, if you have leaders in the movement that are sort of like doing like a populist kind of thing where they're feeding this furor, they're feeding this fire, and they're not saying to their audience, hey, but we draw the line at death threats, we draw the line at doxing, like I am not encouraging that, then I think that would be irresponsible. Whoever's leading
Can you name a creator that's not saying don't dox or anything?
Tim Pool, Lauren Southern.
I'm not super familiar with like who's driving this conversation, but I'm just saying, like, if you're going to be a person who
that's why we have Peter here.
If you're going to be a person that's like prominent as a part of a movement, I would hope, whether you have left-wing leanings or right-wing leanings, the nature of the movement, I would hope that you would really encourage your audience to show some kind of restraint, because what happened with Gamergate 1 and 2 is that it blew the fuck out of proportion, like right away. Like the fact that these developers, you can say whatever you want about their politics or how you think they fucked up games or whatever, but it is nuts to like for a developer to open up their DMs and it's literally like 100.
Yeah. So hold on. Yeah, so Wick, you asked him, do you have names? I'll tell you like the names about like 4 of them right now. I would say Sargon of Akkad, Lauren Southern, Tim Pool, and Vosh have all led their audiences up to the precipice of violence and then not told them, hey, like, just to let you know, I'm very passionate about this subject, but I don't want you to send death threats.
I don't think any of those people are involved in Gamergate 2.
They're not, but I think they're good examples.
I know
they're good examples of that kind of rhetoric.
Okay, but I'm talking about, this is one thing. I'm talking about Gamergate 2 because that's what we're discussing today.
Decent gamers.
Hold on. I want to give it to Weezy.
Sargon was a part of the first Gamergate.
I understand, but we're talking about 2. I want to give it to Weezy. I want to give it to Peter.
Mark Kern. Sorry, Mark Kern. I don't know if you know who the fuck that guy is, the former Blizzard dev or whatever the fuck he was. Mark Kern is also one of the motherfuckers out here saying that the shit that they're doing is deliberate to destroy straight white men. He's one of those examples. All right, sorry, Peter, you're up.
No, it's fine.
This has been fun. I really don't want to go into like debating Gramsci and Foucault. I don't need to go back to grad school philosophy classes, please. So
humble brag.
A little bit. I agree it's a problem. I think it's pointless at this point to argue who started first. And I obviously have my point of view for how we got here. You guys probably have yours. I think Brianna Wu, who's definitely someone that's someone who did actually suffer at the hands of GG. I think her point is that it doesn't really matter now is correct, because I think everyone now is crazy. And I think the problem is with any social media movement or political movement, it does incite bad behavior, especially people who are mentally ill, less together. And there are very few people who say, calm down, guys, and then they really do say it in a serious manner. I think it's a huge problem throughout the culture, because it isn't just that death threats, by the way, are a big problem, obviously, but it allows bad behavior to flourish. And I've seen it all across the spectrum, whether it's, I used to work a little bit in conservative media, and it's like, well, guys, you have to stay on the company line. You can't complain. You can't push back because, we're keeping you safe. There's this security that if you get out of here, you no longer have the protection of the wagons, and it enables really bad behavior from all over the place, and it's just unhelpful. And look, that doesn't mean that necessarily all the people who are with GG are bad, or all the people who are against GG are bad. My main thing that I do as a disability reporter, and look, in the chronic pain movement, and it's mostly really amazing people who are fighting for medical freedom and the right to have their illnesses taken seriously. But you would get some crazies, and there would be a problem where things got out of hand. And very few people are willing to say, hey, stop that, knock it off. That is unhelpful. Like, that doesn't actually convince anyone. It just makes everything worse. But unfortunately, we don't really live in a moment where there are a lot of people to do that.
And that's what I mean.
You mentioned Tim Pool, and it's like Tim Pool is one of those guys that he kind of pushes the envelope more and more. Let's get the outrage clicks. Let's get the attention. And there is no incentive to say, actually, I had it wrong. Pull back. Calm down.
No, it's the opposite incentive. He's incentivized to be dishonest.
And I want to give it. I hear you, but Wheezy's been trying.
Weezy. Sorry, Weezy.
Yeah,
Go
Wheezy.
ahead.
No, so when this thing started to take off, it was the games journalism outlets themselves that were saying, these people are bad, they're doing this or doing that. They amplified it to 11 when it didn't need to be, right? So And I think it's for the same purpose that I hear people saying, Tim Pool and whoever else. They're doing it for the same purpose. So they can get the clicks. So they can get the interest in, oh, well, what are the bad people doing? It's the same driving force. And just like you have people, I've watched Geeks and Gamers. I know that one is one that was brought up. I've watched enough coverage of this to where nobody is really talking about the death threats, because all the people in the industry that say they're getting death threats go, look, I got a death threat. And it's like a crop picture, and that's it. And then you never hear from them again. But you have, again, people in that same industry going, oh, no, look, their life is in danger and this, that, and the other.
It seems like you're minimizing. It seems like you're minimizing a little bit.
No, they minimize it.
They
just say, I got death threats, and then
you're
going about their day.
You're reducing the widespread, in my opinion, widespread problem of like massive amounts of death threats and rape threats.
Is it widespread? How do we know?
Well, I mean, I've seen screenshots that were like definitely more than one, and it was like some of the most heinous, vile stuff directed at a woman who was employed at Sweet Baby Inc. You seem to be sort of like suggesting that maybe they're I don't know if you're suggesting maybe they're lying about it, or maybe that it's not as bad. I don't know why you would be surprised that a movement like Gamergate, that is primarily driven, in my opinion, by like right-wingers that are really pissed at the visibility of like what they perceive to be progressive politics and games. These people are capable of terrible, terrible things.
Right. And I'm not minimizing that these people probably got death threats, because there are unhinged fuckers on the internet. We all know this.
Mm-hmm.
But when you have more and more game devs, more and more people in the games industry going, look, I'm getting death threats too. Look, me too. And it's like, who the fuck even are you? You weren't even involved in this. And it keeps getting amplified more and more and more and more. And then the original purpose, which was Sweet Baby Inc., the original people are basically the ones suffering, right? Because they're the ones that are receiving the death threats to begin with. And now you have 20 other people going, look, I'm getting death threats too.
Well, so again, is that a reason though, Hutch? And this is to you, so you'll get to talk as soon as I ask you. And then we are wrapping up soon, gang. Don't worry. I know
we're doing a little post show thing again.
We're gonna do call-ins, yeah.
Okay.
If you can stay for call-ins, cool. If you can't, I get it. Gang. If you want to hop in the Discord and get backstage to get in line, do that now. But that said, what worries me and what frustrates me is it feels like we can't have any criticism of these people, because they will say, oh, any criticism you give to me puts a spotlight on me, it makes it more likely for me to get death threats, which is just true. Yes, that's correct. But that just means that we can't call out bad behavior when we see it, because it's okay to scream that the house is on fire if the house is actually on fire, or if the theater's on fire. Sorry, to get the analogy better. If the theater's actually on fire, you better tell people it's on fire. And there are people who, if they really believe it, and I'm not saying they're right or they're wrong, but they really believe that the game industry is being subverted and destroyed by this kind of ideology, right, that's being thrust in. So to them, the house is on fire. And I don't think it's fair to ask them not to talk about it, because unhinged people that aren't them might give death threats to randos. I just don't think that's fair.
Right. So I think the issue for me, like trying to understand what this movement is about, is that we're 2 hours in, I still am not satisfied in terms of like what these criticisms actually are, because it is all too often the case that the criticism is simply visible rainbow flag, minority character, black character, and these things to me are not sufficient like I look at the reaction to it and I'm just mystified. I don't understand the reaction, and I haven't heard it properly articulated. Well, how is this supposed wokeness hurting these games narratively? Specifically, how did Sweet Baby Inc. did it? I've never had a satisfactory answer there.
Hutch, the reason, and let me just, Connor, you can correct me if I'm wrong. It's a bigger part. It's a part of a bigger picture of a subversion. That's what the crux of it is, essentially, and that this isn't just one thing. It's 1,000 little things. You know what I mean? That's what whether you agree with it or not is one thing. but that's what the argument
Yeah,
is.
listen. If I had a DM from a Sweet Baby Inc. fucking person saying you have to include the black deaf girl in the video games, or else I'm going to write a hit piece about you, and I'm going to have Kotaku fucking back me up on it, then I would show you that screenshot. Obviously, I don't have that fucking screenshot. The thing that's being complained about is generally progressive shit that feels forced, that's poorly written, being shoved into media that is disproportionately for like white men and men in general. And if you want to boil that down to, if you want to boil that down to disabled people and women are in your video games and you don't like that, okay.
I don't want to boil it down to that. You seem to be boiling it down to that because you still haven't given me an example.
Yeah. Actually, hold on. Here's So this is actually something that that was interesting that I want to address earlier, but I wasn't able to. So I feel like when I would talk about organic representation, I think you can push things in like different, in different directions. For instance, I told you how like Respawn had pretty natural representation of like females and warrior roles and all that kind of stuff, to the point that I didn't even notice it. But at the same time,
deliberate choice. That was a deliberate choice that they made. It wasn't quote unquote. It was organic in the deliberate choice too.
Do you know what was deliberate too? Putting a good narrative around it so nobody even fucking noticed. That was a deliberate choice.
Your problem is not with inclusivity. You just want good writing. You don't seem to be making the case that it's wrong to consciously pursue a policy of inclusivity in games. You're not making the case that it's wrong to do that. You're simply making a case that games should be written better, in which case I agree. But there's nothing inherently wrong with the developer saying, okay, we want to be conscious about the type of people that we put in a game. We want there to be visibility for all kinds of people. There's nothing wrong with that, and it doesn't necessarily hurt the narrative to do that.
Okay, so I would agree with you to a certain extent. But I think that these things go hand in hand. I think piss poor writing goes in hand with piss poor representation. And then also, I think that the organicness of the inclusivity or whatever also comes when it doesn't feel right. So for instance, if we have I'm trying to think of the examples, it's mostly women. But when you put as a matter of fact, let's boil it down. Warrior roles in reality are like 90 to 95% fucking male, right? Just across the fucking board, from aptitude, attraction, physicality, et cetera, et cetera. So when you have a 50-50 fucking mix, or through your narratives, you consistently have females be the protagonists and all the males around them are bumbling fucking incompetent fools that the female protagonist basically said. Yeah, sure. I mean, if I have movie examples, but not video game examples.
No.
We're talking about games.
You're narrowing the conversation that way. But it doesn't matter. We're talking about progressive. We're talking about progressive representation in media. That's what we're talking about, which is what Gamergate is.
Okay,
yeah,
we're circling.
No. I was just going to wrap it up. I was just
well, that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to get to closing statements, and you can address this in your closing statement because I know I want to keep I want to respect people's time. I said 2 hours. I want to stick to 2 hours. We will have call-ins after this. If you want to stay around, you are welcome to. If you have places to be, I understand. Don't feel obligated. I'm going to give everyone a chance to shout themselves out. Where can people find you? Where can people find your work? And what are your closing last thoughts on the topic? And I want to thank everyone for being here. It's been a great show, gang. Next week, we're going to do some hard-hitting political stuff. We're going to talk about the Russian crisis going on right now. I don't know if you've all heard, but there was a serious attack in Moscow. The gunman, some ISIS took credit for it. It was a terrorist attack. It's bad. It's bad, gang. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to be talking about the recent Supreme Court ruling on the Texas immigration laws. And we're also going to be talking about reaching across the aisle and bipartisanship. It's going to be great. Tune in next week for that. But for now, I want to give each of these people a chance to have a closing statement. And we're going to start with Wheezy, and we're going to end with Hutch. So go ahead, Wheezy.
Well, I guess since you said introduce yourselves again, so I go by Wheezy Pillar on YouTube. Small channel. I normally talk about Warhammer and politics occasionally. That's actually how I know Counterpoints up there is through the Warhammer community. I think everybody can agree that death threats and harassment isn't warranted for anything on the internet, right? And you're always going to have unhinged psychos on the internet that take things too far. But at the root, this whole thing, this whole Gamergate 2 problem is exactly what Counterpoints was talking about, which is progressivism in the games industry. Which, if you go down that rabbit hole of developers and journalists and companies, you will see that they live and work in a literal progressive bubble. And it's a wild rabbit hole. I spent 2 hours sitting here trying to figure out how all these people are connected. And they're all connected. It's just that it's a fact. So when it gets to the point where people are injecting their own personal politics into the industry, into their writing, into their development, then it starts to become so one-sided that you do start to make people angry, and they're going, well, why can't this just be a game? Why am I getting preached at, right? And that's, at its core, I think, what the issue is. I don't know how to fix it. Especially, I think Brianna Wu was the one that brought up on one of the panels saying that it's easier to get into the NFL than to get into the games industry, which is insane. And again, how to fix that, I don't know. But people are starting to notice. Plain and simple.
Well, thank you for being here, gang. Check him out. Check out his channel. Give him a subscribe. He's been great. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
For your first, I hope we were gentle for your first panel. I appreciate it. Next up, Peter, please go ahead.
Thank you for letting me spend some time here on the show with all of you. Apologies if I came off dismissive or putting anyone down. That wasn't my intention. I don't do a lot of debate stuff because I don't like dealing with politics and division all the time. I know some people enjoy it. It's just not something I like doing.
It was fucked up, Peter. I'm just playing. Sorry.
You can find me on Culturescape, which is on YouTube and podcast. I guess on Twitter, which I spend way too much time on, at Happy Warrior P. Culturescape, I like doing these conversations with people across the aisle and talking about where they come from and their feelings on matter and trying to push some of this aside. I think it is a major problem how people almost exclusively talk past each other now. I think that the way to dealing with division is to take each other seriously and fairly, and it seems like the opposite is now just standard practice for, well, everyone. I think the negativity we're seeing in media is getting worse, largely because Google is choking everyone to death in media, and outrage seems to be flourishing both in news and politics. I don't have a solution for any of this, but I do know that I love great art. Video games often are great art, whether they be on the left, with something like Disco Elysium, whether they be something that is more right-leaning, like the Call of Duty game with Ronald Reagan. I think all of it is awesome, and I think if we could just listen to each other a bit more and have a bit more tolerance, I think it could lead to good things, but I'm an oddball on that, and I don't expect kumbaya anytime soon. Thank you.
Okay, gang, check him out. Check out his work, Culturescape on YouTube. Yeah, give him a subscribe. Thank you for being here. Hope you enjoyed it. Next up, Counterpoints, please.
Yes. So my name is Connor. I run a YouTube channel named Counterpoints 40K. Twitch and YouTube politics debates is my passion, but the main thing that I do that makes me money on the internet is Warhammer 40K content. So if you're into that, then come check us out. One of the cool things that we've done recently is I made a bolter. So I got a 12 gauge shotgun. I put a 3D printed case around it. I'm firing slugs out of it. It is functional. And basically by next month, I want to make a 20-minute long video on it where I blow stuff apart for your enjoyment. And then I also tell you how to get one for yourself if you're into science fiction and violence. So in reference to this topic, though, really quick, I do think that I understand that you wanted to limit it to exclusively Sweet Baby Inc. I don't have copy of their internal communications. What I can tell you is that progressive shoehorning of bad characters and bad plots into stories and trying to subvert expectations has been a cultural pain in my balls for at least the past decade. There are popular media franchises that have been extremely frustratingly poorly written, despite having some of the most talented props teams and talented special effects teams on the fucking planet. They couldn't write a story to save their fucking lives, and they took characters that fucking sucked and they shoved them in there because they couldn't think of anything else to do. It is a problem. It's a pain in my balls. I want it to stop. I want good characters. I want good stories. Yeah, and I'll leave it there. Thank you kindly.
Oh, thank you for being here. Always appreciate your passion, right? Even if I have to tamp down on it a little bit. But we love it. We love it here. Counterpoints, check him out, gang. His Bolter videos are excellent, and I'm very excited to see more of them. Next up, Rico. Go ahead.
Man, you had the opportunity to do something hilarious here and make me go last. That would have just been fucking perfect, but you didn't because I'm sorry, you disappointed me. Anyways,
He's mildly progressive.
mildly, you just that little bit of progressivism. Anyways, I am Dorico Rants. You can find me Twitter, YouTube, Twitch, all that good shit. Like I said, I do gaming streams and occasionally talk politics and whatnot. This my closing statement, I suppose, is I don't care either which way. All I ask for is four things, and is one, honesty, two, facts, three, evidence, and four, restraint. You know what I mean? It's like regardless of which side you're on either of these issues, that is all I ask for, is that we come at this as reasonably and responsibly as we can, because we want to. Obviously, we can't control everybody, but if we can mitigate the likelihood of that one crazy person out there getting extra motivated and doing some insane shit like setting themselves on fire, storming the Capitol, killing their dad, or any crazy shit like that out there, that's all I ask. Temper your fucking rhetoric. You know what I mean? If there's a problem you're pointing to, be as specific as you humanly fucking can, be as clear as you can, and be as responsible as you can, because you do have a responsibility as having a platform to your audience to temper them. They're only going to be as tempered as you are, and they see you're fucking hooting and hollering about the destruction of civilization and how their lives are in mortal peril or some shit. Somebody's gonna fucking act on it. Always does, and we all act shocked. Where did he get the idea that his life was in danger? Why did he feel the need to do that crazy thing? And it always comes back to the people who put it in his head in the first fucking place. That's all I ask. I don't give a fuck which side of the equation you come on this shit. And last thing, just to be clear, the point I made earlier about Will from Baldur's Gate 3 and Coltrane and all that jazz, I love both those characters. I was just being a contrarian just to make a point that after a certain point, because everyone is going to complain. That's what we humans love to fucking do, is complain. After a certain point, some people's arguments are just stupid. Tell them to fuck off. Like, sorry, that the company should do it. We as individuals should do it. We shouldn't entertain every fucking argument. After a certain point, it's just like, no, your argument's stupid. Shut up. Fuck off. And that's my thing. And love you all, by the way. This was a fun conversation. I really enjoyed it.
Well, we love you too. Gang, check him out. Check out his content on Twitter and all the other services. And Chris Speaks, thank you for the raid. Really appreciate you guys. We are doing call-ins after our last guy. So if you have thoughts on this, you want to call in and talk to people here, feel free. But last, but certainly not least, Hutch. Go ahead.
You can find me on Twitch at Hutch. You can find me on Twitter at Hutchinson. Enjoy the conversation.
Short, sweet, to the point. I love it, gang. I love it. If you need to go, you're free to go. I understand you guys got families and stuff. We do have some people who want to talk to you guys, though. If you want to stay, that's for, yeah, we'll do this.
I'll hang out
until
for
I get
15
bored.
minutes.
Yeah, I'll do this until I get bored. So,
did anybody want to talk to me, or like just did you?
You can go if you'd like. I don't know who they want to talk to specifically, but if you need to go, go. It's fine.
I'll hang up for 5 minutes. I'll hang up for 5
Okay,
minutes.
we'll see. Let's bring him on. Hello, you're live.
Hello?
Hi, you're live. What do you got for us?
1 sec. I'm turning on cam. Okay, so sorry for it's a bit dark in here. It seems to me that wokeism became like this umbrella term for things that are like for things that are misogynistic, okay? And for things that are like fighting for diversity. This is not just like progressivism and wokeism, okay? We should not forget that this is not just the regular scapegoat that we use in our everyday, the wokeism, how the woke is bad, the woke is. It's not that. It's misogyny. If you have problems with like affirmative action in your culture when it comes to women in video games, that's kind of misogynistic. That's not
Is
just
counter misogynistic.
it's
And
kind
you're
of misogynistic. If you're complaining about it, it's misogynistic. I mean,
Okay.
it shouldn't. There's
I
no
don't think
reason
anyone-
for that to freaking bother you. Like, I mean,
I don't think anyone is complaining about
Gotta go.
women
peace.
in video.
I'm still live. Hey, everybody. Hey, everybody. Wanna do that bang? It is I, Dorico Lamonte Baker. Oh, shit.
Buddy.
Hey, but oh my God, you weren't kidding.
About what?
The in the middle of the Indian thing.
Yeah.
Oh my God, you were not kidding.
I can't shoot my video. I was going to shoot my video today, but I can't. I haven't got any makeup because I don't wear makeup. So.
Yeah, you need some makeup to cover that shit. Holy shit, that's big.
I don't know. I woke up with it and I didn't realize until I had my meeting this morning.
Damn, that looks like a fucking like 10 mosquitoes bit your forehead.
I don't know what it is. I just woke up and it was bleeding. So
Oh damn.
yeah, I don't know what it is.
It must have burst in your sleep.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. But hey, look, I've got a dog now.
Hey, doggy.
He's called Luffy.
I'm divorced now.
Oh shit. I remember
yeah.
speaking to your ex like briefly, but like never got to know her.
Yeah.
So-
No. So the two big things have changed in both our lives.
And I'm not poor now.
Woo!
I managed to befriend a millionaire who made blood money. And he pays me to write stuff for his music courses on his iPhone app.
Nice. Hell
So-
yeah.
But when I say blood money, it's because of like he was one of the original designers of Wix.com, the website builder.
I'm digging.
But that Wix.com is on the BDS list.
I am fucking digging. Okay.
So
congratulations, man.
yeah, he's like a multi-millionaire, and he's been giving me the most money that I've ever had in my life. Like, he's paying me like close to 4K USD a month.
Holy shit, son! There you go.
So
You
like-
fucking you hit it. You hit the jackpot.
and I'm still claiming benefits on top of that as well. So I'm sitting pretty for a bit.
Hey, brother, I'm proud of you. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's just that like you know about the BDS list. You know what that is? Like the boycott, diversify, sanction thing. You know, like about Israel and stuff. So it feels a bit odd, but like this is a new company, so it hasn't got that association, but the Wix does. So
so it is blood money.
yeah, but this guy, like, he's got like a bank in America, he's got a bank in Spain, and a bank in Ukraine, and he's got a Ukrainian team, and he lives in Spain, and I get paid from an American bank, so he's got money like wired all the way around different places. He's in another economic class. I swear he is.
Shit, sorry, my cat started acting stupid.
No worries. So yeah, that happened, and I've been with them for almost a year. you wanted to
Fuck it.
apologize about something? I don't get it. I don't know what you have to apologize for.
A lot of things. It's just I've got a lot to do.
I don't know what you need to apologize for, like to me specifically.
To you specifically, I wish to others as well. I just wish I'd have been a better friend. Truly. I
don't know what you mean by that. I mean, I just thought we were just like acquaintances most of the time. So
for the most part, yeah, but still, I don't feel like I was as good as I should have been, even as an acquaintance, to both you and so many others before. You know, my wife left and whatnot, and it just kind of hit me that, well, after pulling myself out of the severe depression, that I needed to change as a person. Because if I pushed even her away, it made me start, reflecting on everything. Like, how was I,
of course,
as a person to everyone?
Yeah.
And that's where I realized, it was time to change. It was time to go back, and even if the slight had been minuscule, inconsequential, it mattered to me because I know I wasn't that good. I know that I could have been better, and I want to be, and that's what I'm not apologizing for anything specific. I'm just apologizing for who I was. I appreciate.
Yeah, it sounds to me back then you were like possibly, because I don't want to, because like I have been on THC quite a bit recently, so this is not going to be sounding like a thing, but like I felt that there were probably problems in your relationship, and then you used the weed to like stave off those problems, and then that affected everything else.
Among other things.
But like, I don't want to go too deep into that for you because it's not pleasant. But it's just like I think it's good that you're having a reflection on things and opening up and changing, because that's always a good step forward. And you might end up with someone who appreciates you at a better level.
That's the hope, anyways.
Yeah. So, but like, change is always good, but when it happens, it hurts like a motherfucker.
it was not painless. It has not been painless. It has been a grueling fucking process. But it's one that I'm glad I'm taking, because at least now I feel a lot better about who I am than I did before. Because before, my idea of myself was shallow. I was just I wasn't so much as a fully developed person as I was living a shallow idea of myself. And it reflected in all of my relationships: the inattentiveness, the self-centeredness, the selfishness and inconsiderateness. Fuck off from my food, kitty.
I found that changed for me when I got my dog, because I had to. A pet helps in that aspect a little bit.
Yeah, I got 8 cats now, so I get you.
8 cats, damn. But yeah, like in my relationships, I recently had something that tore me apart, because I tried to get back with that ex that I wanted to be with, like I told you about many times, who I fell in love with and stuff.
Yeah.
We tried that again.
I'm still listening.
Yeah,
Keep going.
We tried that again twice. And during that, I was saying, hey, I'm going to move to France and be with you and everything. My life was going to like change, and I was saving up all my resources and everything. And there was this girl that I'd been talking to for about like 2 years, who I was in contact with as well. And before I knew that I was going to get back with my ex-fiance, I had already booked the flights for her to come over from Peru. I paid for everything, like flights, hotel, everything. And it was just like, shit. I'm going to lose out like $2,500 or more.
Damn.
I was like I couldn't bring it in me to just eat it and then like cancel it.
I can't say I wouldn't have done the same thing though. Just to be clear.
Yeah, and then so she came over. I had to tell her like the day after that we were together, and it was weird. I involuntarily had sex with her, like out of habit. You know when you're just with someone and that's what you do, and it's like it wasn't me actually wanting to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt like I was detached whilst it was happening. It was really fucking weird.
No, I trust me. I know. I know.
Yeah, it was like I was on autopilot and I was sitting inside myself as it was happening, and I hate that feeling. It was fucking horrible. And that happened just before me and my ex-fiance were trying to patch things up together, and I was going to go over and see her. And then I had to tell her about it. And then this crazy bitch was in my, like, she went completely nuts. I didn't know how crazy she was. She had like some sort of like panic disorder. And that flared up when she was over here like 2 or 3 times. And I told her about I tried to keep everything honest after that involuntary thing happened. And then she started threatening me in my own house, telling me that she's going to say all the things that have happened here to my ex-fiance that I was trying to get back with. And when she went back home, she started telling me that I got her pregnant, even though that didn't happen. Like, it physically didn't occur. And then she told my ex-fiance that, and she blew her lid and she said, I don't want anything to do with you anymore. Even though I was planning all of these things to go and move to France. I even like got my driving lessons all booked in so that I can have it all ready to move over. I had like French lessons booked. I had all of these things like all lined up to go and see it and have it all like my whole life like moving in that direction. And then she dropped me like nothing, or didn't want to hear my like side of things. And yeah, it was just it was kind of like she didn't exactly want to be with me in the same way that I wanted to be with her. So like I thought after all of the years that I was with that person, or the things that we've gone through, it could have been just like, oh, it's one more thing of bullshit that we can deal with together. We could have a stronger resolve. But she didn't see it that way, and she just split ties. So yeah, I've had like that felt like a death to me. Do you know what I mean?
I do. I mean, I felt like I died.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to die. I did. And it took everything in me not to. So believe me, I do understand. Truly.
Yeah.
I'm glad I didn't do what I really, really wanted to do. I'm glad I'm still here. I'm glad I've rekindled old friendships, made things right with people. I'm glad I am trying to live and be better than I was.
Yeah.
I'm glad. So I trust me, I understand the dark place you were in, because I was there too.
Yeah, it's just that I was pining over this ex-fiance for like 15, 16 years, and she never lifted a finger to do anything to like make it easier for me to come over and see me, or like chase after me. It's always me.
Yeah.
And,
I would have. Go ahead.
Yeah,
go ahead.
it was just like I had to fix so many broken mental barriers that she had to make things right. And the only way that would have been fixed is if that we were living together. But it still feels like there's a distance. There's always a distance between how she presents herself and what she feels inside. And I just don't. I could have it easier. I could have it a lot easier. You know.
I do. Well,
now I just want.
Go ahead.
Now I just want to go to Rio de Janeiro and fuck bitches.
Amen, brother. Amen.
Yeah. Because I don't know, I've got a thing for Brazilian women at the moment, and I can't help it.
You always have, as long as I've known you, and I respect it.
On top of that, when I came out of that relationship, I was chatting with a girl who was really nice and invited me to come over, but then she got fed up because I was feeling a bit funky about coming out of my thing. And then she cancelled and rejected me on top of that, so I got double rejected in the same week. So it's just like, fuck. You know.
Fucking
But
hell.
yeah,
Well,
I know. So I was just
well,
my,
here we
my
are.
relationship shit. My relationship shit is always rocky, but I'm now financially stable, which is
Hey,
one thing that I wasn't before.
That is a win. That is a big fucking win.
Yeah.
And I'm
I can now
really happy
support.
for you.
I can now support myself, and I should be reporting my income for taxes, but I haven't been.
You'll cross that bridge when you come to it.
Yeah.
So I saw you in the chat during that little debate.
Oh, it was pissing me off because I've been there before. You know, I've been there before. I was there when the original Gamergate was, and I was indoctrinated a little bit, and I understand how you get into that sort of thing and how you come out of that sort of thing. And all the talking points haven't changed.
Yeah. How do you think I did?
I mean, you did what you did, but like for me, I would have been a bit more like calling them idiots more, because I just like, because for me I was just like, what you're saying is stupid and dumb, and here's why. Like
two things on that. One, I'm not mean enough for that, and two,
yeah.
I don't care nearly enough about Gamergate 2 enough to even have gone that route, because it's just because the arguments are dumb and just really just even if there was some credence to them, I just don't care about this issue that much. Like,
You shouldn't have been on the panel then if you didn't care about it that much.
I was bored. He offered he after my Boogie tweet fucking blew the fuck up, he offered it to me and I was like, sure, why not? I'm bored. I'm bored enough for it.
I haven't been on Twitter for like ages because of Elon. As soon as he took over, I cancelled it, so I don't know what you said.
Oh, it's long story short. Boogie had said basically, video games should be fun and not telling people it's bad to be a straight white man. And I was like, if any one of you musty dipshits could point to even one game that tells you that teaches people that would be great. Just one game, please. And it blew the fuck up.
Well, you're on an exclusively reactionary platform now, so
yeah, it's a lot. There's a lot of reactionaries, a lot of reactionary dumbasses for me to dunk on.
Mm-hmm.
It's fun.
And Boogie's fucking weird anyway.
He is, but all the chuds who tried to get in on that, like fucking short fat otaku and various other chuds tried to get up on me, and I dunked on all of them, and each one went viral, like back to back to back. It was a whole fucking thing.
Damn.
It was wild, but that's why he reached out to me and offered it to me to come on the panel, and I was like, sure, why not? Fuck it.
Yeah, and Hutch, I can't believe how much of a platform he has. He's got 379,000 followers on Twitch. Like on Twitch, that's a fucking like top streamer level. Like,
oh yeah.
And I told you earlier, like Hutch actually sent me some money when Vadim retweeted me when I was like, e-begging.
Yeah,
if you remember.
Good. I remember that.
So,
damn, so Hutch hooked you up, huh?
Yeah, he gave me like, I think he gave me like 70 pounds or like $100, like once.
Hell yeah. Yeah, he seems like a
Hutch
cool dude.
Yeah, he's a nice dude. He
I
bought
hope I
my
can get
love,
the.
basically.
I hope I can get the. I hope I can get to talk to him after that panel. I hope maybe I left a good enough impression he'd want to talk to me because I would love to, have him here and just, shoot the shit with him.
You should send him a message now whilst it's fresh.
I already did. Now I'm just waiting.
Fair. But yeah, it's just, what is it with counterpoints and being scared of muscle mummies?
I don't fucking know, dog. I don't know.
Like, do you hear him like going, men are traditionally the big bulky ones with the bazookas and everything because they can hold it and stuff, and I'm just like, muscle mummies?
That's why I made the point that I was like, in the scenario you are describing, that those type of women would absolutely be on the front lines. Like, they would.
I mean, you've been in the army. There's women in the army.
And they are fucking strong. They are all fucking strong. Are you kidding me? Yes, they would absolutely. If we had an existential crisis to all of mankind, those women would be the first in line to fucking fight.
Yeah, and they often have to like compete against like being masculine, so they have to work twice as hard to show that they can do what they can do.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I know. That's why it's like his argument that it's that wouldn't happen. It's not realistic, and I'm just like, but it is. Even in your example, it is.
Yeah, and these days you have games where you can drive into a fucking medieval field. That's, like it's all fantasy. It's all fantasy and fiction.
It's all fantasy, dog.
I think I would have an issue though. I think where I would have an issue is when there's talks about making Magneto black.
Yeah, that wouldn't work. I tried
because of the Jewish Holocaust stuff.
It's integral to it. It is his character. You can't separate it. You don't have Magneto without that. So like I tried to be generous to that idea, but it wouldn't work.
I mean, unless the black dude story was that he was part of like Auschwitz camps, because that's possible. You could have like black people who have been put into the Auschwitz stuff, right?
Yeah, you could. But
I mean, the skin color isn't that important, but like, it's kind of like if you think of a Jewish person, you don't automatically go to like we was Kangs. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. It just wouldn't work. It's for the best that they not even attempt it. Because I feel like even with that most generous interpretation, they would fuck it up. I wholeheartedly believe they'd fuck it up.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I mean, they could try it, but I don't think it would go down well. But
I don't think it would go down well either.
But like you could say in that example, the reason why it wouldn't work is because of the relationship for Jewish people and the Holocaust, and most of the Jewish people were either like Germans, Austrians, or Polish. And back then there wasn't that many sort of like integration of other cultures in there,
Exactly.
So
well.
I mean that's where I would kind of like say, yeah, that's going a little too far, but like there's like if it was something that was if it was a white character that had no sort of like minority status, no problem, absolutely fucking no problem. Do you know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah, none of it would. It's just some whatever. What I gotta ask, fucking, what brings you here? Like, did you reach out just because you saw me on the panel?
I just saw your Facebook. I saw your Facebook and I saw that live and I saw like the topic and it infuriated me.
Yeah.
Like a Gamergate 2.0, does that mean you haven't learnt from the first one?
They have they have it, but he's not even entertaining this bullshit. I wanted to be as reasonable as possible, but yeah, no, there was some.
And they were saying Sargon's not part of Gamergate 2.0. Do you think Sargon will pass up on Gamergate 2.0? He rode the coattails of Gamergate to like nearly 1 million subscribers and got like so much money on Patreon and all of these other things and made Jordan Peterson famous, and all of these things that are affecting our culture now are because of how Sargon rode the coattails of Gamergate.
Yes,
like,
the fuck he did.
He would fucking love Gamergate 2.0 if it meant his name was out there as popular as he was back then.
He'd be all for it.
He'd be asphyxie wanking every time he heard his name come out from Gamergate 2.0.
Like, yes, I'm back in the spotlight. Let's go.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, I saw Sargon like recently complain because he doesn't understand. Because firstly, he didn't understand Starship Troopers was a parody of fascism. He thought that was just like, the way things should be. And secondly, he's having the same conniptions with Helldivers 2 because he can't see it as satire. That was this week.
Same as it ever was.
Exactly.
Good old, just stay yourself, Sargon. I guess stay you, man.
Go and ruin another party like the Labour Party because he ruined UKIP.
Yes, please go do that shit again, please.
But man, just all of those arguments just sound so old hat,
They do.
Like
and they are. It's the same arguments.
Yeah.
Man.
And that counterpoints guy, God, it sounds so fucking conspiratorial.
I mean,
like
he was. And yes, Fallout, I did get Warrior Class. I love it.
Fallout?
Yeah, I was talking to my buddy. He's you didn't see my message, did you?
No, I didn't. You on streaming now?
Yes,
okay.
That's why I was like, when you called, I was like, okay, I guess he's saying yes. Because
shit! I just emptied my life out like in front of everyone.
Well, nobody can see you, and no one knows your name either. You're just a voice talking to me.
Fair enough. All right. Okay. Now the context has changed.
I swear to God, I would not have. I asked you. I was like, "You want me to end this?" I thought you saw it.
No, no, man, no.
Fuck.
But do you want to link me to the chat and everything? I don't know where it's going.
Oh, sure. Hey, give me 1 second. Let me pull it up. Yeah, my buddy Fallout is he's been in the chat. Him and 2 other people. But one thing Fallout has said to you is stop thinking with your dick. He said to both of us.
Hey. You are talking to an experienced dick thinker right now.
Like, you are the dick thinker.
Oh
man. Yeah, no. I've been streaming myself playing Dragon's Dogma 2 and loving every second of it.
You've been playing what? Sorry.
Dragon's Dogma 2.
Yeah, I've heard issues about that though. Like, apparently you have to pay for like the like
base. Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
The base game is fine. You don't have to pay for anything. It's all optional. That doesn't make it good or okay, but people are blowing it way out of proportion.
I've heard that you have to pay for stuff like transport.
Transport and cosmetic changes are the big ones. But the thing is, it's fine. Like I don't know. The game is exactly what I expected it to be. In fact, it's even more than it already was. So, like, at no point do I ever felt like I needed to pay for anything. That's what I mean. Like, even including transport, I've never once felt like I needed to pay for a goddamn thing. You can if you want to make things even easier and even quicker, but you really don't have to.
Yeah. So now that we're on the stream, if you really want to get into it and want to talk about like the origins of Gamergate, I can, but like it's just rehashing old stuff.
Nah,
But it's just
go ahead.
it's just so frustrating to see people wanting a Gamergate 2.0. And I think the only people that want a Gamergate 2.0 are the reactionaries. No one else wants that shit. And they want to find any excuse to bring it up. And it makes money for all of the wrong people.
Bingo. Like the incentive, what it is that they just want I am 100% convinced that the majority of the people who want Gamergate 2 are the same, and some new people who want that like momentum, that hype, that fame that others got or that they had before during Gamergate 1. That's all it is.
You just have to scratch the surface a little, and then you just see, oh, Gamergate, oh, fascism. you just scratch the surface just a little bit, and you just like, I can't believe that Counterpoints guy was talking about how the Western civilization arguments lead to communism and stuff. No, it leads in the opposite direction, and it was infuriating. It leads to people who are white supremacists. They're always the white supremacist accounts that have those fucking little, like, Adonis photo sculptures that complain about like Western society are always the white nationalists, and then they post something made by a Chinese artist because they can't fucking read. You know, like it's always those people that have the issue with the decline of Western society, and they usually point at trans people and LGBT people just like as an example of how Western society is degrading, or they look at like Biden as this communist or something like that. That's where those things come from.
Just
and he was talking about Gramsci. He's talking about fucking Gramsci. Gramsci was just a guy who I think I'm right in saying this. Gramsci wrote like 10 letters whilst he was in prison for his views on how to change society, because he was so like ostracized by society that he wanted to make it better, and he had all the time in the world in prison to write like his little manifesto, and then people tried to follow a little bit of that, but they couldn't do it. That's all Gramsci's about. He doesn't want to decline the Western world or whatever. Like, it's stupid.
I know. I heard him out. I let him get it all out, and I'm just like, I am not gonna sit here and have a historical debate with you, because for one, that is not my wheelhouse. That's why I didn't even entertain, pushing back on that, because again, like history, like to at least to that extent, and especially pertaining to that fucking topic, is just not my fucking wheelhouse. What I can say though, that's why I said my closing statement was like, all I asked for is that we're gonna talk about some shit, and we're gonna list out of the third, no matter which side you're on, is that we just be better about it. You know what I mean? That's all I ask. I am like, if you want to say this is a threat in some extent or whatever, you better outline exactly what and how and what it'll result in, because because all these vague allusions to destruction and your life is in fucking danger, bloody fucking blah. I'm like, please, for the love of God.
I'm gonna say what I said to you earlier. I find it funny, all of them talking about women in gaming, but they have no women on the panel.
Not one. Yeah, that was.
and then when a woman comes on, she goes, "This is all fucking misogyny, and you're all misogynists." And
I just thought it was funny. I was the only black guy, and he's talking about black representation. That's why I said before, as the only black guy on this panel, let me tell you, representation. I'm fine with it. Like, what the
Yeah.
fuck are you talking about? What is
And
bad black
I would
representation?
I don't want to speak on behalf of you, but I would assume that it's good to see black guys and gals and envy pals, like showing on force and saying to like
Yes.
little girls and boys that they can do that too.
Yes, I love that shit. I grew up on video games hardly showing us at all. But now I get to see us everywhere. Now I get to make characters that look like me. That was not the case growing up.
The only person that I could think of, like character-wise, was that black dude who was the boxer in Street Fighter 2.
Balrog, that ugly motherfucker. I hated him. He looked hideous. I hated him.
Yeah. God damn.
I hated Balrog, man. If you
He was
tell me
boring though.
he was boring, ugly, and a bad guy. You tell me he's the only representation I get. You are breaking my fucking heart.
Or Jax from like Mortal Kombat back then. Like I can't think.
Okay, Jax is fine. Jax has always been cool as fuck to me.
Yeah, that or Barrett from Final Fantasy VII is what I'm thinking back to.
Barrett as well. You know what I mean? Yeah. And then as Fallout just pointed out, Def Jam Fight for New York. So we had options, just not as many as white people did. It's only gotten better as the years have gone by. But a lot of white dudes are mad about that. And I'm like, fuck off, guys.
Yeah. I was saying to you, and I don't think the point was made, is that like I said this in the chat that like the predominant culture is whiteness.
Yep.
And they were like, that sounds like an ethno-nationalist statement. I was like, no, it's not. It's just historical fact. Like, you've got like 100 years of like, or more of like white culture, and then you're complaining at this like if you looked at it on a graph, you'd see like whiteness for like loads and loads of period of time, and then you see like 2000s, 2010s, 2015, 2020s, and then you'll see like slight percentage increases of like representation from different minorities, and then you get these white kids or white like Gen Xers who are just on the stream just going, I can't believe things are changing.
The horror. The point I brought up to him was like, how are you getting upset on behalf of teenagers who don't even have a point of reference that you're talking about? You're upset because you have a point of reference because you're 30 plus years old. They don't even know what the fuck you're talking about. Laura Croft with the bigger tits. They didn't grow up with that. We did. They only know the Laura Croft that they're seeing now. So why would they be upset?
Yeah, damn those like cone tits.
They didn't grow up with the cone tit Laura. We did.
Yeah.
So again, that's what I'm saying. The point of reference is just not there.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. That's why I was like, a lot of this shit is just overblown bullshit. I'm like, you are getting upset on behalf of a fictitious idea of a young person that you don't represent.
And it was really hard to relate. It was really, really hard to relate to Lara Croft as well, because like gender aside and like ethnic background aside, she was like a minted multi-millionaire that went on like archaeological hunts in mystical places. Like how do you possibly
relate to that?
Yeah. like changing the gender or like the ethnic background of that wouldn't like, it wouldn't make much of a difference because of the fantastical shit she's doing. Like, and the amount of money they have to go over and explore things and stuff. It's annoying. It's the same, like, because I'm heavily involved in the Pathfinder and D&D communities. And it's the same argument of like, oh, you can't be trans in our world because trans people don't exist in medieval times, but then they would allow like dragons and shit. They're flying on these fucking dragons and they're breathing like magical breath weapons all over the place, and they're using spells and teleportation and all of these other things, but they can't have trans people in it. No, they can't do that.
Oh,
And
it's just not realistic in a fantasy game, you assholes.
it just comes back to how I thought like the counterpoints guy was like, oh, traditionally, like if you look at history, all these people were just like men who are doing these manly masculine things, and it's really weird and like immersion breaking when I see a woman doing those things. And then you think of the context or the setting of the game, and it's just like there's other shit that's like really unbelievable, but that you're okay with that and you can't deal with like the gender swap.
Exactly.
So fucking stupid to me.
It's all really stupid. It's dumb, but I'm glad this GG2 is a joke compared to the first one. It's honestly a joke.
I even talking about it is trying to make it a thing.
It's trying to make it a thing that it's just not.
Mm.
Fucking hell. Well, what you up to for the rest of the night or day? I guess for you.
Well, it's like 1:30 in the morning, but I'm gonna finish watching the rest of the Shogun stuff that I haven't caught up with because it's pretty cool.
I heard that show is phenomenal, so I plan to watch it too.
It's really cool. I just wonder what the direction they're going to take because you've got like the Western influence thing coming in, and I don't know. It's supposed to be like the story of The Last Samurai, but told in a realistic perspective rather than I'm an American, I saved the day.
Yeah,
you know,
the white savior shit.
Yeah.
No, I'm digging. All right, well, fucking have at it, brother. You enjoy your show and then get some fucking sleep.
Yeah, and then tomorrow I've got driving lessons and I've got to do hopefully the spot on my forehead's gone, and then I can do videos tomorrow, and I've got to write another article.
You need to rub some alcohol on that shit, dog. Like for real, like just dry that shit out. Cause holy shit, that thing fucked you up. Something fucked you. Something fucked you up.
It makes me want to get concealer, and I've never used concealer before.
I don't blame you. I really don't blame you. I'm not calling you ugly, by the way. You are a handsome man, but that thing stands out like a sore thumb.
This might be worth
it. Yeah. Speaking of handsome stuff, I really, really want to get back to working out at some point. But it's just the issue that I have is that I've moved. I don't know if I was in the same place last time when we spoke. I don't think I am. I'm now in a 3-bed house on my own with a dog. So with a back garden and everything, like I'm doing well. It's just that
get back in the gym then, baby.
Yeah, that's the issue though. I live in the middle of nowhere and everywhere is a car commute, even like to the supermarket. So I didn't realize that when I moved here, but it's a pain in the butt. So the nearest gym is like a mile walk there, a mile walk back. And I know like the point of going to the gym is an exercise, but I don't want to spend my time of getting an hour that like an hour of walking or like 45 minutes walking there, 45 minutes walking back.
Yeah. No, I feel you. I work out. You see me, I work out regularly. I'm 285 pounds of solid muscle, baby. Let's go.
But you're batting them off with a stick.
Oh yeah, no, I'm going. I'm back into boxing. I joined my local library's book club, and now I'm streaming again with much better quality than I used to. Like much better production, much better production quality than used to. Because now, ever since I lost everything, I feel the need, like a part of the whole rebuilding myself, but of actually putting in like real effort into what I do. No more half-assing shit. I'm actually gonna try.
Oh, nice one.
See how far I get with putting in real effort.
Yeah. I remember your philosophy was to half-ass things.
It was. It genuinely was. I was perfectly.
Because I remember you talking about that.
Yeah, I was perfectly
Yeah.
content with my life of half-assing everything, but not anymore.
Welcome to Bjorn's, and quality is what you need.
Half-assing things is how I got. It's how I lost everything in the first place. I didn't appreciate anything. I took it all for granted.
Yeah, I think you should talk with Hutch if you can.
I
See
would
if you
love.
can get
I
get some
absolutely
combos going or like something because he's got like a huge reach.
Yeah, no, I absolutely would love to. I would love nothing more than to sit down and talk with him sometime. But that depends if he responds. That depends. That depends entirely on him.
I mean, streaming is the in thing right now, but like the reason why I don't do it anymore is now because I've got this job, obviously. But it kind of feels like a 9 to 5, and I'm a creative, and I don't want that.
Amen to that. Amen to that.
Yeah. Like I know this is really bad, but like I hardly did any work this week. Just like I should have done a lot more work than I did, but my boss seems happy with me because I do the minimum that he asks.
Of course.
So
In the end, that's what you're asking for the most.
yeah.
It's just like at least do that much, and we're good. We're groovy. But man, I'm gonna let you go because I'm gonna end this stream and start a new one soon. But I gotta make a phone call to somebody who tried to call me while we were talking. See how he's doing. First off, to my audience, thank you all for coming. Hope you enjoyed that debate. It was honestly pretty fun. I had a good time. I
It
think I
made
did
me
pretty.
rage.
No, yeah, I think I did pretty well.
Mm.
And Nick, it's good talking to you again. Seriously, I'm really, really glad that you're doing so much better now.
Yeah. Did you make up things with Jody as well?
I did. Yeah, me and Jody,
cool.
me and Jody are buds again. We're talking, but we've been on each other's streams. We're having a good time.
I would say with Jody, be prepared to always learn something.
He is a knowledgeable guy, no doubt about that.
Yeah.